on Lake Toccoa last night for dinner, and I hope everybody had a good night's sleep and rested and ready to go this morning. We got a pretty busy schedule this morning, but we do have a special guest with us that I wanted to call up, and I told him to make some brief comments. But Commissioner Gary Black, our Ag Commissioner here in the state, is with us. Commissioner, would you like to say a little something? That'd be fine. That'd be fine.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And welcome to Northeast Georgia. We're not far from our house, but thank both the chairmen for being up in this territory, and we look forward to being with you a number of times, if not every one of the other times. Somebody from our team will be here, but to all of you, it's good to see you post session, and we enjoy hosting or being a little small part of Rural Caucus every week, but this is the first time we've been able to visit maybe for since the end of the session. I'd be negligent to not look at every one of you in the eye and thank you for what you did for the Department of Ag during the session, and particularly conference committee. I don't know if anybody came out any better than we did, and that's because a bunch of you went to the mat for us and voted for us and helped us, and that helps us, meet those future needs of the department and the citizens we serve. And I think we got 11 positions and a number of other things that were very critical for our operation. So to each of you, thank you, and we look forward to keeping, make you proud with those investments as we move forward. I'm really excited today that Jack Spruill, our Director of Marketing, is going to give you an overview of some key things happening in the industry and some thoughts about the future. We're talking about at the department a theme moving forward that is pretty simple: is that agriculture makes life better for all Georgians. We're going to be talking about that a lot, not just in the coming months, but over the course of the next handful of years, because to really relate to people. And so when we have the opportunity to take the message of, okay, how do we make life better? Well, it is the economy. It is the regulatory functions that we provide. When we can make sure there's safe food, when we make sure that the gallons and gallons of gas pump, those kind of things, then life is better for all Georgians, and they can go on and do something else and participate in the economy and build their communities and look after their families. But those investments y'all make in us help us to do that. But Jack's going to be talking a little bit about Georgia Grown today and some other things where we fit into that. And I hope that when we have a chance in future meetings of the council that maybe we can get a little more in depth in that and love to participate. I also see that Thomas Carter is on your agenda today. Exactly by statute. I serve as chairman of the Development Authority and the functions there. Chairman of England, when good ideas come together, and we merged a couple 3 years ago now with our START program. Now you're going to talk about access to capital. The START program, I think Thomas is going to give you a really, really strong report about that. START loans at the Development Authority that's an acronym that we came up with. It's Securing Tomorrow's Agricultural Resources Today, and that's a START loan's $400,000 loan that people can, young farmers or beginning farmers can access. And Thomas will have you a good report on that today. And certainly as you move into the work of the council, if you see that's a program that you want to advance, or give us the advice or give us the direction where to take that, we'll certainly be there. But to thank all of you for your friendship and cooperation, and congratulations on being up here again, both co-chairs, and we look forward to I think we're going to have some pretty good Georgia Grown meals, I think, in 3 of your future meetings. We look forward to being a part of and be a partner with you through this whole process. I'm grateful to be here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Mr. Co-Chair.
I just got handed a note that Steve Tarvin's mother died last night, so if y'all will keep Steve and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Our first presenter this morning is Tim Martin. I knew I liked Tim, then I found out that he graduated from Florida State, so I know I like him. He began his service as Executive Director of the Stevens County Development Authority in June of 2008, but he's got more than 30 years' experience in community and economic development. He's served as the President of the Georgia Economic Developers Association, the President of the Georgia Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, and President of Georgia Technical College Directors Association. And Tim's got some folks that are going to give us some success stories and some challenges from this area of the state, and so I'm going to call on Tim and let him introduce his folks. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, we appreciate this opportunity to share a few ideas about what we see as some of the obstacles and challenges and some of the successes we experience here in Georgia, particularly Northeast Georgia. We do have two very, very special individuals that I'd like to spend most of our time with, allow them to tell their story, their challenges. We'll start this morning with Barry Roberts, who is with ASI Southeast, and he'll tell you a little bit about that company, and then he'll be followed immediately by Leon Osborne, who is with Osborne Wood Products, a great story they have as well. And then I'll come back and type a few items. If we run out of time, the information that I have on my PowerPoint slide, of course, is available in written form. But we're quite excited about the privilege that you've given us to tell the Toccoa Stevens County, Northeast Georgia story. Barry.
Thank you, Tim. One of the things I determined when I looked at the lineup is that they put this in order of boringness level, which I'm glad they did, because I will certainly be the winner on that today. I was just telling my boss, he was saying, how can he interrupt me and pick on me during my presentation? And I said, well, I've been on a diet now for about a month and a half, and I'm starving to death, so just throw me bits of food like a seal, you know, and I'll get that, and that'll motivate me. So if you see some food flying through the air, then he's trying to motivate me, make it more exciting here. I am Barry Roberts. I'm the Director of Operations for a company called ASI Southeast here in Stevens County. We're located in East Denali, Georgia, which you may have heard of or you may not. It's right down the road, a small town, right next to Toccoa. So it's Metro Toccoa is where ASI Southeast is located. This screen here, you can see some of the facilities that we have here in town, what they look like. We're also building a new one right now. What I want to do today is, first of all, give you an idea of who we are, what we do, and then I want to get into some of the obstacles that we see as far as doing business in Georgia, and maybe even some of the obstacles to us growing here. We've been a growing business now for a long time, and you'll see in a minute we've put several $1 million into the state of Georgia and into this community in the past several years. We want that to continue, but we see some things that right now are dampening our plans a little bit, and we want some help maybe moving forward on some of that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I also want to talk about some ideas that we have, some things that we think might help, and also I'd like to talk about some local initiatives that we have going on. We're already doing some things. We already have some partnerships. We have deep roots here in Stevens County, and being a community partner is important to us. We want to see this community thrive. That's part of what we do. That's part of who we are. And then the last thing, we'll talk about some next steps. I have some questions for the group here. Not necessarily that you need to answer today, but I want to put some questions out there. I want to thank each member of this council, by the way. There's other things you could be doing this summer day other than sitting around this table, and I appreciate you taking your time to be here. It's worth it, I think, for us to be here. I think it's a very important endeavor, but thanks again for being a part of this. Georgia operations. This is ASI Southeast in picture form. And you can see some of the machinery, some of the equipment we have. We have laser cutters, we have CNC routers, we have press brakes, we have
all kinds of metalworking machines and plastic fabrication machines, and we extrude plastic. We are one of the leading manufacturers of steel and polymer products used in commercial restrooms, and we are the leading full service provider of partitions in the world. So we are the largest, and we're headquartered right here in Stevens County. Our primary products include partitions for restrooms, accessories, and lockers. If you go in a restroom, a commercial restroom, just about everything in there we make. Everything except for the porcelain. So toilets, the sinks, we don't, but everything else, the partitions, the mirrors, the paper towel dispensers, hand dryers, baby changers, all that, that's what we do. We also extrude HDPE polymer. Does anybody know what HDPE? I don't have a gift to throw you, but do you know what that is? High density polyethylene. There's other kinds of polymer, and we do make some other kinds of polymer, but that's the type that we use in our partitions. We also use polymer that we extrude to sell to other industries outside of the restroom business. We sell to companies that sell skating rinks, boat decks, playground equipment, so a diversity of industries outside of our mainstream business. We also have an international footprint. We're not just in the United States. We're part of a bigger company called the ASI Group, and that group is located several countries, and we're expanding into more countries as we go. Over the last few years, we've expanded into 3 or 4 additional countries. And one statement at the end here, we are a lean manufacturing and team culture here in Stevens County at ASI Southeast. We believe culture is important. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about in a minute is labor and the ability to get labor. But one of the things we understand perfectly is that we need to keep the people we have. We need to take care of the people we have. And so we put a lot of emphasis on people. We put a lot of emphasis on not only people, but like I said earlier, the community. We want to be somebody that's a part of what's going on here. We don't want to be a company that's making products, sending them out of here, and that's it. We want to be part of what's going on. We want to be part of the people's lives, and we want to take care of our people. Some of the notable projects that we've worked on the last few years, you may recognize some of these. Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. If you go down there, you'll see our partitions. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's the new Falcon Stadium. SunTrust Park, the new Braves Stadium. Yankee Stadium, Dallas Cowboy Stadium, Madison Square Gardens, Boston Logan Airport, Freedom Towers. I could go on and on. We do a lot of high-profile projects. We do a lot of small projects. We do anything from a small church all the way up to a high-rise building. So we do a lot of different size projects and businesses. Give you an idea of what we've done. I mentioned we had grown here in Georgia since 2005. We actually came to town in the mid-'70s to Toccoa. And since then, we've grown, but we started really accelerating our growth in 2005. And since then, we've spent $50 million here in Stevens County. And you can see some of the different things that we've done. Some of these are plants that we brought to town. Some of these are equipment that we bought. But $50 million means that you're confident in a state. It means you're confident in a community, or you wouldn't put that kind of money into it. And we have been confident. We still are confident. Our headquarters is in New York, Yonkers, New York. And so we could have put businesses anywhere we wanted to. But Georgia is the place we decided to put it. And this is the place we want to stay. And let me go back one. This is our new facility. I mentioned that earlier. This is going to be 150,000 square feet coming in just a few months, already under construction. So we're spending even more. Economic contribution. This is what we pay into the state each year. $13 million we pay our employees in wages. Our taxes are a little under $1 million to Georgia each year. We have about 200 containers that come into the Port of Savannah each year. And we are the largest employer in Stevens County with just over 400 employees. So we have a presence here. And like I said, we want to stay here. We want to thrive here. But we do feel like there's some obstacles in the way right now, some things that we would like to see improved. We would like to be part of that improvement. And you'll see a theme as we go through this. Every one of these are related to the same theme. The first one is availability of skilled labor. I'm sure you haven't heard that one before, have you? That's a surprise, that the availability of labor is a problem. But it is. And I know you've heard it over and over. I get concerned with a group like this that you hear things so many times that you become a little immune to it, that it's part of the way we are. Well, we have a labor shortage. Well, that's just the way it is all over the country. We can't think that way. That's right. We've got to take action to improve our situation. If we don't take action, it won't improve. And to tell you the truth, looking at what I see coming and what's already come, the baby boomers retiring, business on the increase, a lot of things happening that's going to just suck away that labor force. And so if we sit here and let it get sucked away, what's going to happen? Something's got to give, right? So I think we're there to some extent. We need skilled labor. We need engineering, maintenance, CNC programmers, drafting. You can read the list. We've had certain jobs that have been open for over a year. So imagine that. You need a job. It's important. You wouldn't be looking if you didn't need it, but you can't find anybody. And why can't we find anybody? And we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. We also need not just skilled labor, we need entry-level labor. We have 26 openings right now. Told you we had about 400 employees, a little over. 26 employees, you can see the ratio there. That's a lot of people we're looking for. Where do we get them? And this last one here on this slide, I want to mention, this may sound a little negative. I don't mean it to be negative at all, but I'm just stating a fact. When economic growth comes to rural areas, as it has in our area, in which I support, in which I've been a part of personally, and new companies come in, that's a great thing for the community. However, there's more parts to this than just a company coming to town. And one of the parts to it is the impact on existing companies. And when a new company comes to town, existing companies are impacted for a time. Long term, I think everybody wins. Short to medium term, the one that came to town wins. The people that are already here, maybe they don't win because it drives up labor costs. It puts a hurt on the labor supply. Obstacles continued. Not only is there a labor shortage, but the quality of labor is something that we need to look at. Soft skills, again, I'm sure this is something you've heard many times, are lacking. That's something that we see that needs to be improved. I'll talk about some ideas on that shortly. Lack of basic math skills is something we see. Large number of people failing the drug test here in Stevens County and surrounding counties. I've worked in several states from here to Virginia. This community is the worst state, or the worst community that I've been a part of as far as drug problem. We have a drug problem here in Stevens County. It's a big one, and it does impact the labor force. And so I think that needs to be on your radar. I think some funding needs to be on your radar for this community. Something to not forget, because all the other things we do to try to improve what we're doing, if we don't improve this one right here, we're going to sit still. Limited housing is an issue here in this community. We're bringing businesses to town now. We're bringing industry. The problem now, though, is where are they going to live? We don't have housing for people to come here. If we want to draw people from the regional area, which we can draw people from outside of Stevens County, where are they going to come to? There's nowhere for them to live right now. That's a problem. Public transportation is a problem. If we could bus some people here, we might could get some people from further away, but we don't have any way of doing that. So that's an issue. Just lack of infrastructure. And I know you hear that every meeting you have in a rural community. It's not an unusual problem, and it exists. But it does exist here. We've improved a lot. We've had a lot going on recently with sewer and water. But if you look at it, that's what limits the retail businesses from coming to town, the big chains. It's not only the traffic flow, but it's the infrastructure. And we think there needs to continue to be a source of funding coming in from the state on infrastructure for this area. All right, some ideas. I've thrown a lot of problems on you, but I want to throw a few ideas back at you, just to stimulate your thought. The first one is, and this is something that Doug and I, my boss, talked to a couple of legislators about a few months ago. We think there needs to be more emphasis on the labor shortage. And maybe there is, maybe I don't know about it, maybe, it just needs to be communicated differently, but I would like to see more of an emphasis put on this. There's a lot of things you can do. I know your time's limited. I know the state budget is limited. And I know it's easy for me to say, give us more funds to work on this problem. But to me, if I'm looking at business and looking at our business, this is number one right here. The labor shortage is number one for us. And what we need to find out is what are the reasons, because there are many, and then develop some solutions to these problems. That's what we're asking for. We need more partnerships. We have some great partnerships with this college, with our local high schools, but we want to see more of that. We think there needs to be more of that encouraged throughout the state. More emphasis on soft skills, leadership, team training, and primary education. And I'm not just talking about high school. I'm talking about from kindergarten, first grade. Teach the soft skills. This is a different generation, different sets of parents than people had before. Some of the things that we assume get taught at home don't get taught at home anymore. I think some of this needs to be taught in the school. I hate to put it all in the schools. I've got a wife that's a second grade teacher. And so I know that putting everything on the teachers is not the right way to go. But for soft skills and some of these things that we're missing in the workplace, I don't see any choice. I think it needs to be in the education, in the curriculum. I think we need additional funding for GED programs. GED is a great program. It is the one thing that frees people up and encourages them to better themselves. And they will go further. They will become a more valuable job candidate if they have a GED. We think there needs to be a pathway or a curriculum in school for students who don't want to go to college and don't even want to go into a technical college or anything. They just want to go to work. There's kids like that just want to go to work. We'd like to see some kind of training to train them how to work in a manufacturing environment, something that they start early and work their way through. Math curriculum. Right now, the math curriculum goes up to this, ungodly level of trigonometry, calculus, whatever. And then I've got people over here that don't know how to divide, multiply, add, use a ruler, use a tape measure. Somewhere we're missing something there. We need to go back to that basic math, and we need to look at what's missing. And we need to establish some skill sets that will enable this group of people, the ones I'm talking about, that want to go into manufacturing, want to go straight into work out of high school. Let's train them to do that. Again, the drug issue. We need funding for that. That's where we need some help. I think there's a lot of local emphasis on that now, but we still need help in a big way. One idea, protection for companies that hire people living in halfway houses or people that have been in prison. That's a source of labor that we as a company haven't tapped into. And I think it's a good thing to tap into that. I think it's something that it would give us employees, and it would help some of these people to get good solid jobs and help them to assimilate back into the community. So it's a win-win. But somehow we need to be protected as a company, as a business. We can't just throw people into our workforce without some kind of protection. What kind of protection I'm talking, I don't know. I'm just saying we need to think about that. How can we be encouraged to hire those people? Tell me how you can encourage me to hire those people, and we'll look at it, because we would like to do that. State funding to support the infrastructure. I know that's something that's, when you go to the state and you go to the federal government, it's like pulling teeth because everybody's asking for it. But that's something, if we want to improve this community, that's what we need. We need to continue to grow our infrastructure. Some of the things that we're working on with our company here locally there's 4 or 5 things. One is what we call the Step Up program. What we have done, we've developed a program with the GED program here in the state where we will actually hire someone who doesn't have a GED or high school diploma if they agree to go through the GED process. Now, we don't hire them as a full-time employee, we hire them as a temporary employee through a temporary agency. And then we bring them in to work, and then we will pay for their GED. We will pay for the testing and different things, and we encourage them. They have to report back to us, let us know how the schooling's going. We monitor that. And then at the end of their GED, when they take the test, if they pass it, we will hire them. And we not only hire them, we'll give them a cash bonus. So that's our Step Up program. And I think it's something that could be used in a lot of places. Partnership with NGTC, North Georgia Technical College. We have a great partnership with the college here. And that's part of our success of finding employees, honestly, is through the strong partnership that we have with them. We also partner with the high school here. We're also a big part of the Chamber of Commerce and the Boys and Girls Clubs. There's lots of things the company could do. These are the things we've chosen to do here in Stevens County. One thing before I get into this next steps, I want to say about all of the challenges I just mentioned. You know, what was the theme of what I just said? Not enough workers, right? Labor. We need people. I think there's 2 ways we can look at that. The way I just looked at it was from the supply side. How can we increase the supply of workers? How can we increase the pipeline of workers coming into our workplaces? There's another way we can look at it, and this is not necessarily a negative way. And so I want to present it to you. Look at the demand side of it. If we can't control the supply side, and I think it's going to become less and less likely that we can, and more of a challenge, how can we control the demand side a little more? And one way to do that is through automation, through increased efficiencies in our plants, so we don't need to hire as many people. And so how can you help with that? Incentivize. If we can be incentivized to automate, if we can have some help with the investment of this money into automation and into efficiency improvements, then we'd be ready to go. We'd be ready to spend it. So that's a challenge I'd like for you to think about. I think we spend a lot of time thinking about the supply side, but it's a supply and demand side, and both sides need to be looked at. And the last thing I want to say before I ask these questions is, you remember the, if you build it, they will come. I was thinking back about all these plants we've had coming to town. If you build it, they will come is a true statement. But they will come from existing industry to start with. So think about that in the context of what we're talking about. My question is for you, and I'll leave you with this. What is the plan to get value from today? You're spending a ton of time here, and you could be doing a lot of other things. You know this is important, or you wouldn't be here. What are we going to do to get value from this time here this week? What is the Rural Development Council's next step? And you may already know, but I'm asking. I'd like to, at some point, know what is the next step. After we do this, what are you going to do? And then lastly, I'd like to ask, how can we help? How can ASI Southeast help? How can Stevens County help? Because one thing I know for sure, it's not your problem. It's not my problem. It's our problem. And we have to work on it together. We both have to be invested in it. And so let us know. We're here to help. Any questions for me? If you have any later, I'll be glad to answer any.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for an excellent presentation. We've had really good ones, but hearing it from somebody who's actually hiring and facing these problems is very helpful. When you talk about, have you hired people from our halfway houses and ex-cons?
We have not.
What kind of problems do you foresee? Are you afraid that you'll hire them and then they don't work out and they'll go on you'll be charged with unemployment to the state? Or
we're concerned about liability. We're concerned about how they may assimilate with other employees. We're concerned about what may happen. If we hire a person that has a criminal past, what's going to happen when we hire them? From a safety standpoint, it's all of the above, honestly. It's all the things, all the liabilities that come from somebody with a criminal past. And although we know that, or we hope that they've been reformed and that kind of thing, we're just concerned. We're too concerned. We're too conservative, I guess, at this point to take that step without somebody saying, okay, if you've made a mistake, if this was the wrong thing to do, we're here with you. We're going to help guide you through this.
You're looking for, like, blanket, no responsibility if they mess up on machinery or something?
No, we're not talking about, if this person doesn't stay here for 10 years and become your best employee, then, we have to compensate you in some way. No, not that. It's just more of a liability thing. If somebody came in and, started a fight or, selling drugs on, it's just.
I can see you as a company or
Yes,
something.
yes,
Got it.
that's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time.
Did you have another question for Barry? Barry, come back up here.
Well, just wanted to say first that that was not a boring presentation. That was spot on.
Thank you.
Great job. But one of the things that you mentioned that perhaps people really didn't even hear was you spent a few seconds apologizing for sounding negative. And I think that in and of itself is a little bit of an issue that we are so afraid to sound negative or hurt somebody's feelings. And in going back to yesterday's session, one of the themes was leadership in these local communities. True leadership in local communities aren't afraid to hurt somebody's feelings or tell the truth and the facts about what's happening. So I would challenge you, these local industries and leaders, to stand in front of your people and say your brothers and sisters and sons and daughters are on drugs, they will not work, and we need their help to be successful to support this community.
Amen. I agree.
It's right here.
Oh, here it is. I just want to ask you, are you familiar, because we agree with you, and I think it's an excellent presentation. You hit what we've been saying for the last 5 or 6 years with our career pathways. Are y'all familiar with the career pathways we're now doing through 6th grade up, elementary school, and the partnerships, and especially this new, the Move On When Ready? I think it would be a great idea, and I'm excited about what you're saying. Get with Stevens County, maybe we can pull one together and pilot it. Getting these students in those schools early, having that work-ready certificate. When they graduate from high school, not only will they get a diploma, but get a certificate showing they're qualified to be welders, whatever. Are you familiar with all that?
Yes.
So we would love to have you involved with us and with the career pathways. And if we need other pathways, that's what we're looking for now. What do we need to add? What do we need to fund? Where do we need to go? So,
Great. I'm glad to hear that there's a lot of interest and a lot of action going on there.
and especially with the career academies we're adding now, and in a lot of our high schools, we're adding these. We're encouraging every high school and middle schools to add those programs. So, and we appreciate your partnerships and your, yeah.
Sir.
Lumsden.
Just adding on to what President Coleman said, are you familiar with work-based learning, and are you a partner in your local high school with your work-based learning programs?
Yes, sir, we are.
What's been your experience with that? Has that, and we passed some recent legislation that should have encouraged even more participation in terms of the numbers.
It has been slow with our company. One of the things that's slowed us down from hiring high school students is the age limit. We can hire 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds for working in the office and for light manufacturing, but heavy manufacturing jobs requires the student to be 18 years old. And so when you get, you're almost out of school by the time you turn 18. Yeah.
The work-based learning, the legislation that we passed last year that had to do with incentivizing local businesses to hire them, dealing with the workers' compensation issues. But yes, you certainly are limited based on some federal rules and guidelines about what they can do. But just wanted to make sure you were availing yourself of those.
And we have been involved in a big way in our high school. We've actually been part of a committee that actually meets with 11th and 12th graders. We actually present to them what we do, like I've done with you today. We've actually established relationships, and that's something we've started doing. We know the student before they ever go to the 12th grade, and they know who we are, and by the time they graduate, hopefully, they're going to have a good idea of whether we're somewhere they want to go to work for or not. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on the Military Affairs Study Committee. We went around the state and visited our 9 military installations over the last year and a half. You know, we've been looking at what we can do to strengthen Georgia, strengthen our military bases. And, you know, we have, you know, they get out after 20 years of service, they're still fairly young. These guys, they have these soft skills you're looking for. Do you recruit at these military installations? All of them have some sort of publication they put out every week, advertising jobs and that kind of stuff.
We have not actively recruited. We've hired military, and we love to hire military. We've had success with them, but we have not actively recruited on the basis, no, sir.
Thank you.
On the GED, there seems to be a conflict of what we're trying to do and what you were suggesting. We feel with so many of the jobs now that requiring, like Walmart even, a diploma instead of the GED. We passed legislation a couple of years ago, I don't know if you're aware of, 19,000 students that would have had to get GEDs were able to get the diploma. So we're emphasizing, move on and ready, the diploma. So I'd like to talk with you sometime about that. Yeah, get that diploma where they can't even get in the military with a GED now. So we're trying to.
Well, we'll take either one.
Yeah, we're working. Yeah.
But I agree with you.
Right.
First priority would be to stay in school and get that diploma.
Yeah.
Next presenter, we may have some more questions.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Leon Osborne, and I'm with Osborne Wood Products Incorporated, located here in Toccoa, Georgia, Stevens County. When I listen to Barry, I think of Barry and ASI as big brother. I can't tell you the number of times we, as almost like a micro business, have reached out to ASI as a big brother to say, hey, can you help us with lean management? Can you share with us? Can you give us a tour of your plant? And in a small community, cooperation between businesses is really important. And ASI has been a leader in our community, not only to strengthen our community, the connection between education and manufacturing, but they've also been connected with helping other small businesses in Stevens County to be successful. So Doug, Barry, I congratulate you, and we say thank you for your participation in our community. Today, I'd like to present to you about perhaps what one might call a micro small company. You know, a small company is a company of 500 employees and less. Sorry, Barry, you're not going to be small much longer. Osborne Wood Products is in the category of 50 and less. And so in the world of small business, we're microscopic. Our mission as a company is we're committed to a partnership for success by providing superior service, world-class innovation through forward thinking and a culture of caring. And learn how to operate this. Sorry, folks. Okay, here we go. The products that we produce and distribute are furniture legs for kitchen islands, corbels, appliques, feet, decorative moldings, as well as various table legs for furniture and cabinet display industries. We both manufacture and distribute. I'll get used to this in a minute. Technology plays a critically important role in our small company. We have 2 full-time IT people on staff, and we have 10 full-time equivalents internationally to support the technology that is required in today's small business to reach out to our customers both nationally and internationally. Our company has 21 full-time permanent employees and 2 direct hire part-time employees. Perhaps the oddest thing that may come to your attention is, in addition to these full-time permanent employees, we have 13 employees from staffing services that are primarily summer help. The reason is we have an opening for a controller. We have an opening for a supply chain manager. We have 3 shipping associates openings that are open today. We have 1 middle management position. We have a marketing assistant position and a position for an administrative assistant. We have 8 openings that we cannot fill. Under 50 employees. The percentage, think about that. We have 8 positions we cannot fill. 98% of our business is in America, 1.5% in Canada, 2% is in other foreign countries. We're working hard to change this profile. We want to and endeavor to be more of an international company. And so last month, I am sorry for this. We marketed in Cologne, Germany at Interzoom. And you see our booth there in the U.S. display there. We also market twice in national markets with a large display. We bring 5 to 7 people of our associates to market our products nationally. Sorry. But more than promoting Osborne Wood products, we endeavor to connect with our community, and we do that both for connecting with our community and to build opportunities in our community for industry. We believe that our community is a community in Northeast Georgia that often is passed over by people who come by or come through our community. And so we work to promote the values of our community to those who come through. If you've come in through Stevens County, you've probably seen one of our 6 billboards that we sponsor for our community. This sponsor is like if you're interested in pets and animals and you want to have a community that you're going to connect with animals, come to Stevens County. Or if you're someone that wants to serve and change the life of a high school student and want to be a mentor, we not only pay our employees to mentor students, but we put a billboard up so that if you want to mentor, you know who to reach out to and who to connect to. We reach out to those who pass by on 365 and 85 and 985 to recognize Toccoa, Georgia is a great place to do life. And speaking of life, there's an organization in our community that if you are an underprivileged or a needy mother, maybe perhaps a single parent, this organization will provide with you training for how to care for your child, how to work with your finances. In exchange for taking these courses, they will provide formula and clothes and things like that for your families. We want people to know Stevens County is a great place to do life. Stevens County is a county that is starving for employees. Our unemployment rate, I called the Department of Labor last week and I said, what is our unemployment rate? It's 4.8%. You know, you would think that with 4.8% of the community, 4.8% of the population of Stevens County are out here looking for jobs and that they're qualified to have jobs. But that's not the case. It's just not the case. Today we have 157 job types open in Stevens County. That's not jobs. That's job categories. A job category could be an open for, what did you share, Barry? You had how many jobs in one category?
26.
26 jobs. That's one of these 157 job types. Easily, there's over 250 openings, probably much more than that, in Stevens County that industry, manufacturing, and grocery stores and restaurants have open today that we cannot fill. A restaurant in Stevens County was unable to open its doors one week because of lack of help. Ladies and gentlemen, this problem is grave. One of our billboards says, "Visit Toccoa, a great place to do life." We need 1,000 of these billboards on the highways of Georgia, and we'd be willing to share. This could say, "Georgia, a great place to do life." We haven't shared notes when Barry's talking about housing problem, but you know, if we bring a middle management person from Texas, we brought an IT person in from Texas. Why not Toccoa, Georgia? I've already told you why not Toccoa, Georgia. We brought him in from Texas. He's looking for a house that's between $150,000 and $190,000, and he hasn't been able to find one. He's here, he's renting, he can't find a house. We in Stevens County, we need to have help for small builders, small businessmen that build 1 or 2 or 3 houses a year, to help them to have the financial support to build a house. You know, builders are stunned by the events of 2007, 2008, and they not only don't have the resources, but they're scared to invest the resources in building spec houses. There's no longer what was considered in the past a sure thing. We need to attract new employee and new employee families. The state of Georgia, we need to put up our signs, but not signs that say "help wanted." Not signs that say "help desperately wanted," although that might reflect the reality of our situation. But you know what? We have the greatest state in the United States of America. We are business friendly, but more than that, we are family friendly. Our state is phenomenal. And it's a secret. We're not telling the rest of the country. And I say, why? Why are we not investing with marketing the values that we have as the most incredible state in Georgia? We are the land of opportunity. We have more apprenticeship and learning opportunities than other states in our region, where there's a connection between education and industry. We are family safe. We are family friendly. Where else can you speak to a relative, a friend, or a neighbor and say, "Come to my state because you can raise your children in a school system that looks out for them in a responsible way, and they can participate in the community, and that in so many ways will touch the lives of your children and help them to mature into the adults that you and I would be proud to have them to mature into." The cost of living, the state of Georgia protects the integrity of the American dollar like no other state. We have powerful selling points for our state, and unless we can apply those selling points and bring people in our state, this problem that we're bringing to your attention will become catastrophic. Without families, without students, without fresh blood in our communities, we will fail to be successful. I'm going to bring a practical point to you that very, very small businesses affects us, and businesses that are business to consumer in nature. In our business, we sell the components of furniture, components of cabinets. We don't make furniture, we don't make cabinets, but we'll make an island leg, a beautiful leg for your kitchen island or your cabinet maker. With components, you have a part, and the part's made out of wood, but there might be 12 different kinds of wood. And so we sell a lot of this part in maple. We sell some of this part in cherry, but we sell a little bit of this in walnut. And so for us to serve our customers, we have to have all of these wood types in stock. But the walnut pieces, May sell infrequently, once every 3 or 4 years. But we have 15,000 SKUs. And so for us to serve our customers, we need to maintain inventory, small levels of inventory on products for more than a year. Last year, because we are business to consumer, we had $900,000 of inventory, 4 of this, 4 of that, 2 of this, because that is what a customer is going to order, and we will ship it the same day. But because of the Freeport, which is normally a tax incentive to protect customers in industry, it has a limitation of 1 year. And so for our micro business, the impact is on our $900,000 of inventory of 4 of these and 4 of other things in walnut and hickory and mahogany. We paid $11,000 tax in 2016. Georgia is amazing. We are a business-friendly state. And one of the incentives that is very effective for business is the on-the-job training program, where the state of Georgia will actually fund 50 to 70% of the wages of a new employee coming into the business as a direct hire, as a resident of the state of Georgia, through their training period. That's phenomenal. But everything kind of has maybe a downside. And so let's talk about, and I'm going to go to the right side of this slide. This program is for Georgia residents, and it's phenomenal for Georgia residents, but we are a business that we're right next to South Carolina. And while this program affects and helps Georgia residents, a large portion of our employee base is across the river in South Carolina. And so that particular program often doesn't support the business side of Georgia business as much as one would think. There are other programs that are focusing on businesses that are a little bit larger than Osborne Wood Products. The Quick Start program is focused on businesses that can hire 15 or more employees. As a Tier 3 county, the Job Tax Credit Program is limited to companies who are hiring more than 15 employees. I have 8 openings, I can't fill one of them. Do you know what would have to happen for me to have 15 openings and then to fill them? And so these great programs, they're not effective for the micro business, the business that's under 50 employees. And perhaps that these programs would do better if they were focused on a percentage of growth rather than a number of employees. Georgia has invested in education and has invested in connecting the dots between education and business and industry. We have numerous schools in our community that we've connected with: North Georgia Technical College, Piedmont College, Toccoa Falls, Mountain Education Center High School, teachers in Stevens County. All of these schools and all of these groups have come to Osborne Wood Products to tour our facility. And many have said, we will come back every year because you give back to the community and you give our students an educational experience that is unequal. We as a small company, we connect with education. Brent Farrar, and he's with the program of Jobs for Georgia Graduates. We meet closely with him along with Barry and ASI in connecting with high school students. We go to the classes and we send our engineer people, the 2 of them, to speak to high school students. We connect with the job program that you're referring to. We meet when they have an employer appreciation. We're there and we meet with students, and I'm the one that sits down with the high school girls and guys and say, how many of you are going to college? Yes, we are. When you get done with college, how many of you are coming back to Stevens County? None of us. And I say, when I'm hiring somebody for IT, and we're talking about a substantial income, I have to go to Texas. Can you imagine why I have to go to Texas to hire someone to do IT here in Stevens County? And you know what they say? We have no idea. And I tell them, because you're leaving and you're not coming back. We need to be successful and promoting our communities, promoting our states to our young people as a great place to do life. We all need to be reaching out to our high school students in the high schools, talking to them, meeting with them, fellowshipping with them. We also engage in workshops with parolees and doing mock interviews. And this week we are interviewing a parolee for a key position that is introductory in nature. But do you know if that parolee has a history of violence and that happens in the workplace, we are legally liable for the injury that takes place to our employee because we hired that person knowing that he's a parolee? That's what you're talking about. Can you help us with the risk? I don't know what our resources are, but as a small company, if the state of Georgia can offer opportunities where we can offer educational funding or programs to our new employees or our current employees, it would help us to strengthen our presentation both to employees and people that we're looking to recruit. If you can supplement education, if you can help with loan forgiveness, if you can help with, in our educational network of state colleges and technical schools, if a small business could be given, if you're an employee of Osborne Wood Products, you can go and take this course for free, or Osborne Wood Products could be subsidized where we can fund that course and have a discounted rate. That would help us to be able to offer more to our employees. Retention, recruitment, and training are challenges of small business. The millennial group is a group that has its own desires, needs, requirements. And this is a chart that I'm not going to burden you with, but typically when millennials say, what do we want? They say things like, we want no dress code, we want a flexible schedule, we want a personal life that to be integrated with our work life, we want to have consistent feedback, we want to focus on relationships outside of work, maybe even more than work. We want 24/7 access to internet and instant messaging and texting with our friends and associates. We want to be involved in more than one career. And they do bring to the table strong computer skills and the ability to do research and phenomenal things. And sometimes we wonder, how do we manage this energy to be effective at serving our customers? Osborne Wood Products works hard.
Why pursue employment at Osborne Wood Products? In today's economy, finding a pleasant yet challenging work environment offering premium benefits in a lovely corner of the world is a difficult combination to find. Osborne offers all four and more. All employees receive full insurance coverage, including health, vision, dental, and life insurance, as well as free health screenings and checkups at work. To help meet goals established at the screenings, Osborne has a gymnasium complete with full basketball court, weight rooms, treadmills, and a game room available to all employees and their families. Employees have access to state-of-the-art woodworking equipment to build numerous furniture components, as well as state-of-the-art computer software and AutoCAD. Office workers may travel to various parts of the United States for woodworking shows, exploring the industry and answering customer questions. The pleasant environment at Osborne, combined with the southern hospitality of Northeast Georgia, create the perfect combination for any employee. Why wait? Apply at Osborne Wood Products today.
You would think we wouldn't have any difficulty in recruiting. We offer a wellness program. In the wellness program, you meet with a nurse. She does serious blood work, and she has a confidential conversation with you where she goes over your entire family history, and she knows you better than your general doctor. And between you and her, you set health goals. And do you know what? When you achieve those health goals, we pay 100% of your health insurance. And Cigna, it is great insurance. We pay 100% of your health, dental, eye care, life insurance, long-term disability. Fitness center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you, your family, and you can bring a friend family with you 24/7. We offer personal time, vacation, a week's vacation after the first year. But you know, even with these benefits, there's a lot for us to learn, and there are challenges that we face. As a small company, I'll call ourselves as a micro company, every employee has to take on more than one job. Every manager manages 2 departments. And because of that, we need to recruit someone that is more than just looking for a job. We need to recruit people that are interested in developing themselves, developing their skill sets, and being part of a community of caring. NAFCO is a company that has come to Toccoa. They're international, and looking at their website, they have a whole bunch of icons here that are benefits, and this is their European presentation. And so they have benefits like flexible working hours, leaves of absence when needs arises, deferred compensation for retirement, on-the-job training, 360 feedback, a campus doctor, gym membership is subsidized, health days for diagnostic testing, health courses, regular sports events, lunch choices, 30 days leave, and some employees get a company car. I'm bringing this up because some of these benefits that are offered by our European friends, we traditional companies may not even fully understand them and how to incorporate incorporate benefits like that into our more traditional benefit packages. These benefits fit the millennials sometimes more than our benefit packages do. And so we have a lot to learn about the influx of new companies, especially when they're European in nature. And together, we need to build effective employee benefit programs. We've heard immigration as a bad thing. But when we're looking at our situation, it brings up the question, is can we as a state work with business to give people in other parts of the world opportunities that are traditional American values? Can the state of Georgia help us to give opportunities to people who are oppressed in other parts of the world? Opportunities. Is there a good side to immigration that maybe we just have not unwrapped? What can the state of Georgia do to help business, small business? We can promote the best state in the universe so that every American knows if you want to raise your family in a family-safe, a family-friendly environment, come to God's country. Come. We as a state, we need to market. Yes, help us with education. Yes, help us with training. Yes, help us with these other things. But until we can market God's country to the rest of the world, none of this is going to really carry us through this time. Is that right, Barry? Sure. Yes. The influx of investment money in housing would benefit people coming to our community, probably to our state. Business training in respect to how to structure benefit programs. How do we compete and how do we work with millennials to actually get them to focus on serving our customers? Can the state subsidize educational opportunities for employees and future employees coming to our small businesses? Can we get money for small business expansion? Can we get help with our inventory? Can we get tax incentives that relate to hiring new employees that aren't hinged around the 15 number, but are hinged around the size of the business? Can we get help in negotiating shipping costs? Can we get aid in negotiating collectively with different shippers, including the United States Post Office, and then with immigration? I picked this up off of LinkedIn, and sometimes I think we've all felt this way going up the ladder. At first, we see the opportunities to say, there's no way. We can't do this. We can't affect it. And we end up griping. It's like, this is unsolvable. Then we can say, well, I won't do it, I can't do it, I want to do it, I can do it, maybe, I'll try to do it, I can do it, I will do it, and yes, we did it. 1 year from now, I hope everyone in this room can look back and say, yes, we as the state of Georgia have embarked on a marketing program to share with us the qualities of our state like we have never had done so before. Yes, we as employers have learned how to connect to the millennial group like we have never done before. Yes, we have been able to connect with those who have maybe made mistakes in life and to both give them opportunities like they have never had before and have protection for our employees and have legal protection for businesses. Yes, we have found ways to work with each other as state, educational institutions, and businesses to strengthen our communities and strengthen the families in the great state of Georgia. We need to say yes. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it very much. I think both of those presentations have been eye-opening. Tim?
We don't have a lot of time, do we?
We don't have any.
In summary, we'd like to suggest that maybe there's 3 things that the council might consider. Adopt policies that promote education and workforce. We've heard that today. Promote education and workforce training. Policies and programs that impact infrastructure, and policies and programs which create incentives to hire people. These next 3 slides, I'm not going to spend any time at all in, but those might be some ways, might be some things that we've thought of, we haven't fleshed out, but might be worth considering. The interconnectivity between the Department of Education, the Technical College System of Georgia, and the Board of Regents, and others that are involved in that arena. Just intense cooperation and interconnectivity. Continue the good, strong effort that we've had with the High Demand Career Initiative. Fully staff the different programs that we have. Rural libraries, I think, are often overlooked. There's a program in Georgia that they can be enhanced. We need to continue some of those kinds of things as well. On the infrastructure side, just a couple of quick items. Broadband connectivity, you had a session in Tifton on that issue. You all have a 13 steps that that committee has proposed. Don't lose sight of, however, fiber. There are, and then I think the Wall Street Journal yesterday had a big article on the challenges that rural areas have relying on cellular solutions. Cost and availability, make sure fiber is a part of that major improvement. We do a good job in the state of Georgia with water and wastewater. You might not know that municipally owned natural gas systems also need support. The city of Toccoa owns its own natural gas. We struggle at times providing that service because DCA programs aren't available to us. Rural hospitals, we haven't talked much about that, but the challenges that they have. Perhaps here's some suggestions. Continue that rural hospital tax credit that you all have expanded even this year. And then the encouragement that we could give for adequate and timely reimbursements. Our local hospital struggles big time with that. They have debt. The payments are in the mail, but 1 year, 2 years slow in getting paid. Housing programs for these key employee groups have been touched on a couple of times. Inland ports, if targeted to the rural areas, might be something that we could flesh out in some additional conversation. The University of Georgia has a fabulous program for rural communities. The Archway Partnership is very limited in terms of 5 communities at a time. Perhaps that could be expanded. For a little bit of money, the leverage could be immense. And then those programs that create incentives to hire people. They've been touched on by both of our previous speakers. But maintain that favorable favorable tax and regulatory climate we have in Georgia. These next couple of items might be scandalous, might be pushing the envelope a little bit, but make all rural border counties Tier 1 counties. Stevens County is a Tier 3, but we're a border county. We have unique challenges competing with South Carolina, North Carolina. Consider making all rural border counties Tier 1 counties. And then limit One Georgia funding to these rural Tier 1 border counties. Opportunity zones. Opportunity Zones was a very, very successful program. A couple of years ago, we were able to get some parcels designated Opportunity Zones, and we believe specifically because of that, we've had some expansions. We've invested millions of dollars in our Haystone Brady Business Park that this campus sits on, that Mayor Jameson touched on yesterday. There perhaps should be a way, could be a way that communities that put their own skin in the game, they invest their own resources to achieve the Opportunity Zone designation. Short of classifying all rural border counties as a Tier 1 county, perhaps they could earn that designation by putting their own skin in the game, developing their own grad-certified industrial parks for those parcels. Help communities acquire land. You know, there are other states that are contiguous to Georgia that help those communities acquire land and then develop those land. Often, European projects particularly are wanting property that's already developed, prepared, graded, utilities in place, settled is the word that I hear regularly. Corporate tax rates has been stable for years and years and years at 6%. Thank you for that. But South Carolina is 5.5, Florida is 5%. That might be something that the council could consider. The authorization of and the monetization of tax credits. Tax credits happen in rural areas. If companies could somehow or another monetize those tax credits that they're not able to achieve because they don't have the tax liability, that could be a real encouragement in rural communities. The I-85 bridge experience, I think, could be instructive to government, local, state, and federal. Projects can be done when people get together and decide, well, let's just make some things happen. We want to be safe, we want to be protected in all of those areas, but sometimes these regulations can be burdensome and onerous and slow down projects and then discourage projects, in fact. Adequately fund those different programs. I counted up the other day, 14 different state agencies that we touch on about a weekly basis. Continue to support those agencies so they can support us. Marketing's been touched on today, deal closing funds. I know that there's a fund of funds that state pensions and other groups can invest in. Perhaps there's ways to tweak that to allow those funds to invest in startup or small businesses. And then I don't know how you word this in a diplomatic way because life has all kinds of seasons in it and people come and go. But sometimes we hear that folk don't come back to work because they cannot replace the benefits with a job wage that they're gaining by not working. So perhaps there's some ways that we can fine-tune and support that. Again, in summary, continue to do the good work we're doing. Consider some of these other options as we develop education, workforce training, infrastructure, and incentives to hire people in our companies. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. Let's see if I can find my presentation here. Thank you. I am with the Small Business Development Center at the University of Georgia. The concept behind the Small Business Development Center was modeled after a cooperative extension. The idea of that program is to help small farmers, particularly back in the day, be more effective, be more efficient, be more productive, more viable as farmers. The concept behind the SBDC is the same thing. Small business owners struggle with a lot of problems and issues. Use the resources of educational institutions to help business owners acquire the information and knowledge they need to improve their chances for success. We provide, primarily our work is one-on-one with individual business owners, helping them understand how business concepts and practices apply to their unique business circumstance. We also provide training programs and a variety of research assistance for business owners exploring markets and that kind of thing. We have a network of offices across the state. Many of these offices, although they're located in a population center, they all have responsibilities for reaching out to rural communities. In several locations, we're on the campuses of other university system units. But at the end of the day, it's the same program, same people, same services from any location. On an annual basis, we will see and work individually with approximately 4,000 business owners or prospective owners. Most of our time is spent with people who already own a business, who've made some kind of an investment or looking to grow it, manage it better, that kind of thing. We do also work with individuals who aspire to open a business. And again, the kind of topics and issues we deal with are the things that business owners struggle with every day. Managing money through the business, managing their people, dealing with accounting, record keeping, inventory systems, marketing their products, their services, international trade, helping companies who are interested in exporting, and I'll talk about that more in a few minutes, and then companies that are interested in becoming certified or possibly becoming suppliers to larger companies or to governmental entities. Training programs, again, we're involved with those around the state. Some of the training is short term. It's one day, couple of hours, 3-4 hours on a topic. Some of them are series programs where owners will come together over a period of several weeks, one day a week, talking about different subject matter issues and advising and helping each other understand how these things affect their business. As many as you know, owning a business is not having a job, it's a lifestyle. For a lot of business owners, the 24/7 stresses, it's not just running the business, it creates family issues, community, etc. And they oftentimes find helping how to balance, hearing other business owners talk about how they balance their whole life and the business is very helpful. We have a number of special initiatives. One of them is a medical practice initiative, and that's primarily focused on the fact the University of Georgia has a veterinary medicine school and a pharmacy school. We work principally with students who are getting close to graduation and who want to go out, open their own veterinary hospital or their own independent pharmacy. And we're taking them into practices, ongoing businesses. The business owners open their books, open the whole operation. The students get to see what's going to be really involved in running and managing a business. As they tell us, they learn all the science they need in school, but that experience they don't get in the classroom, so we provide that for them. And the business owners enjoy it. It's an opportunity for them. Our people go in with them and looking at the business, how they can improve their operations going forward. Have a minority business program, reaching out to communities that are underrepresented in the state, in the business ownership world, and marketing and making our services available to them. We also have, I mentioned earlier, an international trade program, and the focus of that program is a little bit different. The typical business we deal with is in that smaller category, 50 employees or less. Typically with our international trade group, we're dealing with slightly larger companies who are well established domestically. They're beginning to see their product pushed overseas. They may be working through third parties. and they want to capture more of that business, or they know they can sell overseas and they're trying to figure out, who do I sell to, how do I get it to them, how do I get paid, those kinds of issues. That program works hand in glove with the trade division at the Georgia Department of Economic Development in that regard. We also, in the last few years, have been doing more with agribusinesses, participating with the Cooperative Extension Service at UGA. Dr. Bridges at ABAC has been very helpful. We don't really know anything about production and food processing, but the business aspect of that, helping young farmers particularly and agribusiness industries understand, again, basic business functions, processes, how to grow their business more effectively. I understand there was a question yesterday or a comment about the SBDC program in Georgia, and there was reference to some other SBDC in another state. This is a national program. This program exists in colleges and universities at every state in the union. We all participate in a national impact study every year. And basically the idea is, how do businesses do that work with us versus the average business in our states? You can see how, over the past 5 years, the starts, we do help people identify sources of capital. We do help people who are wanting to grow a business, and job creation oftentimes flows from that. I want to mention about capital. Certainly through the recession, money got really tight. Lenders did get sort of clamped down. Their tolerance for risk is always pretty low, and it went to about 0. One of the things that our people spend a great deal of time on is getting to know the lenders in the communities they work in, and what kind of lenders are looking for what kind of deals. So when a business comes to us, they've got an opportunity to grow, they're looking for capital, we can help them understand, what is it going to take to be credit worthy, and what are lenders in your community looking for. If a business has some issues, we can work with them. It may take them some time before they're credit worthy. We can help them work through that, understand that. Our people get to know the commercial loan officers at most of the lending institutions in their market areas. They are a principal source of clients for us. Lenders send people to us who are either already customers of the bank, who are beginning to struggle with repayment issues, and they'll send them to us so we can work with them, or people they think who are possibly good prospects but not quite ready. And frequently what I hear from lenders is they send people to us and they come back ready to go. Again, how do businesses do that work with us? And I'm not going to say it's all because of us. I will say we are an educational extension program. We can only help people who are willing to learn and who are going to apply the things we're trying to help them with. But typically, the sales and employment growth of businesses that work with us are much greater than the average Georgia business. We do track this every year. I've been running this study for 30 ye's, and we've got a survey in the field right now for a current update. There are a number of private entities that are involved with us across the state. They see value in what we do. They see value in us helping their customers, their suppliers, or their potential suppliers and customers. And they sponsor training programs and things we do to help keep the costs down for business owners. Georgia Trend is one of the people we work with. I've given Tim material for y'all if you'd like it later. If you want a better understanding of what we do with business owners, Georgia Trend puts out a small business publication every year. And it's full of stories of business owners, the challenges they've faced and overcome to grow their business, and how the SBDC program has worked with them in different ways to achieve that. And then I have a couple of slides here of testimonials of people we've worked with and who've been able to grow their business. That is us in a nutshell. is there some questions I could answer? One of the things I wanted to mention was I talked about during the recession, things got really difficult for small businesses. A lot of business failures in Georgia, across the country. A lot of that had to do with just consumption going down, but also lending tightening up and those kinds of things. A lot of lines of credit called, not because of poor performance, just because banks were having to pull back in. During the recession, one Georgia authority came to us and wanted us to push hard out into rural areas, and they did fund us for a number of years to reach out in ways that we can't typically do, and that was very effective at that time. That funding's been redirected at this point, but we do try to reach out to rural areas. All of our offices have relationships with chambers of commerce, local economic developers like Tim Martin, again, lenders, and other business development groups who refer people to us for help. Any questions? Sure.
Since we're talking about rural development, and one of the things that I think one of the things that we heard from one of the presenters yesterday was that, like in California, they had quantified that people who went to the Small Business Development Center versus those who didn't showed a marked increase in the number of employees, the profits, et cetera. If we want to have an impact on rural Georgia, do you see a way that we can use the center to do that, whether we incentivize, okay, you can have more grants or you can pay less income taxes if you utilize these services, and then you become more efficient, hire more people, because small business generates a lot of the job growth.
It does, and I think certainly market conditions drive so much of what happens. And what happened in the recession, a lot of business owners did everything right, and the market just wasn't there for them. So it's not a matter of just training business owners and their own calculations and evaluating the market positioning. There's a lot of other things they cannot control that go into that. I do think one of the effective ways the One Georgia Authority helped is early on they were giving grants to communities. The Department of Economic Development was promoting their entrepreneur-friendly program. I don't know if some of y'all remember that at that time. And they made grant funds available to local communities to choose different things they might want to do in their community. And one of the things a lot of communities chose was to ask us come in and do targeted programming for a specific group of businesses, sometime on specific topics. And so the communities actually selected it. And the community, so it wasn't us just running around pushing it, it was something they had to drive, that had to be driven on a local basis. And I thought that was an effective way to do it. I think certainly, you know, I could sit here and talk about our own manpower issues and all of that. But we're only effective where people want to learn and want to apply what we're saying. We can't magically make it happen for somebody who's not really. So again, I think a lot of the success our clients experience is because those are owners who are scratching and they're playing every angle for success. Does that answer your question?
Do you participate or coordinate with Georgia Tech or some of the other incubator programs so that if they do incubation, that you do some of the things that you do, or do they overlap?
Sure, no sir. A lot of communities have experimented and tried different incubator type models and things, and we very much are supportive of their efforts in that regard. We frequently work with the tenants of those firms. We oftentimes are asked to serve on review committees where they decide whether they're going to let someone in or not, or whether somebody's willing to graduate. If y'all have not heard, you'll probably hear a presentation at some point on the Burson Center over in Carrollton, which is one of the more successful incubator models in Georgia. And we're involved with them on a weekly basis, again, sometimes going there, meeting with firms on site, or providing training programs on there specifically for the tenant firms, and also others usually can attend as well. But we're happy to support those efforts. Anybody who's trying to improve the environment for the business owners in their community, we're always willing to be helpful and supportive.
Questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Our next presenter is Chris Clark, who's no stranger to most of us. He's the president and CEO of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. He received his bachelor's degree from Georgia Southern, his master's degree in public administration from Georgia College and State University. Prior to joining the Georgia Chamber, Chris served as commissioner of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and as deputy commissioner for the Department of Economic Development. Let's give him a warm welcome, and love the shoes.
Can y'all hear me if I don't use the mic? Is that okay? Does that work still? You can make it work. Thank you. I just want to say I wore these shoes for Chairman Healan, and I failed to wear them in his community earlier this week when I was in Bulldog Country. So I'm trying to make up for it.
Dorothy's looking first.
That's how I'm getting on this afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank all of y'all for giving us an opportunity to talk to you today. The presentation I want to give you is one that we're doing all over the state right now. Some of you, Representative Hatchett and even have already seen this data and heard it, but let me give you a little background real quickly on it. We started this effort about 2 years ago to look at the future of Georgia's economy and what we needed to do to continue to grow the economy and make sure that we stay the best place to do business. That led us to sharing a lot of data with our communities and did a whole listening session last year where we talked to thousands and thousands of Georgia business leaders, got their input. It led to a new strategic plan which we rolled out earlier this year. I won't bore you with all the components of it, but a key component of it was a new focus on rural Georgia. That includes a new office that we just opened in Tifton, Georgia a few weeks ago. A new committee is being chaired by Dennis Chastain, CEO of Georgia EMC. Include a new event that we're hosting, a Rural Prosperity Summit, November 29th and 30th in Tifton. And it also includes this presentation, because what we heard as we went around the state and talked to our members was, listen, we know there's a problem, but give us the data, help us understand it, and give us a strategy about where to go. So this presentation is a little alarming and shocking. It's a lot of data. I'm going to breeze through it real quickly though for you. And then at the end of it, we give communities some strategies that they need to adopt today if they're going to get serious about being successful. What I don't have today for you is a list of recommendations. We have a whole wall in the office. We're throwing everything up that we're hearing from members, hearing from your meetings, and we'll bring that back to you a little bit later this summer. Divide it up into strategies, divide it up into low-cost things you can do that won't hurt the state budget, and then maybe longer-term things, Mr. Chairman, that are going to take some significant investment. So we'll come back and share that with you, but I want to kind of set the stage for you, and I think what you'll see in the data is what you heard particularly from the first two presenters this morning, these two local business leaders. So see if I can make this work. So first of all, as you look, you'll see this outline of Georgia a lot. What I want you to focus on is not necessarily your individual community, but the white on all the maps that I'm going to show you. Now, this is how we designate Georgia. The counties in gold are metro. The counties in gray are our hub city counties. Those hub counties have at least 65,000 jobs. That's why they're designated as hub counties. They're exactly who you think of, plus Athens and Hull County up in the top there. Chatham, Warner Robins, Macon, Columbia, Augusta, and Columbus, Georgia. The rest of Georgia have under 65,000 employees in their counties. We designate them as rural. So as I show you the maps, you'll see metro numbers, you'll see state of Georgia numbers, metro numbers, hub communities, but let's focus on the rural numbers as we go through this today. So that's how we designate the counties. Make sure I don't skip it. So some of this data you may already have seen. Hopefully it's not a surprise to you. Georgia's going to add about 1.5 million people in the next 12 years. Over 1 million are going to go to Atlanta. So they got their own issues that we're going to have to deal with. Chairman Cooper. Our hub counties are going to add about 250,000 people. The rest of rural Georgia will split about 100 to 150,000 people as far as growth goes. What this map shows you is the counties in gold will have significant population growth. Counties in gray will have population growth, but quite frankly, not enough to maintain and sustain their economy. The counties in white, as we sit here today, are scheduled to lose population. lose population. When we did this map 2 years ago, 64 counties were going to lose population. We updated this map about 6 months ago. That number went to 74 counties. You see it every day out at your college. All right, so let's talk about the big thing you want to know about. What about job growth? So the counties in white. So as you look at this on the left, there's 2010 through 2015. The economy was starting to come back after the recession. The counties in white were still losing jobs. The counties in gray were gaining some, or having a little bit of job growth. The counties in gold were doing very well. What you saw statewide is about a 9% growth, 10% in Atlanta. Rural Georgia had about 3% job growth. Guys, if I showed you this map in the 1990s, rural Georgia had a higher job growth rate than Metro Atlanta. But after 2 cycles of recessions, we haven't caught back up. So who cares about that? What about the future? If we don't do anything, if we don't act as businesses and as government, here's what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Look at the map on the right. Rural Georgia's job growth will be an anemic 1.6%. The counties in white will lose more jobs on top of what they've already lost. And you can see more counties are scheduled to lose jobs as we move forward. Interesting, as you look at it, outside of Atlanta, the counties that are in gold, you'll see where Kia is. You'll see where your military bases are. And some of the counties in gray that look like, okay, that's some good job growth. A lot of those are prisons. Not quite the job growth that you want. So what about the companies? Well, here's business establishment changes over the last 10 years or so. The counties in white have lost businesses. They're not just lost jobs, but business licenses have gone down. People aren't incorporating there. They're not moving jobs. They're moving out of those communities. So why? What was different between the 1990s and what's different today? So Tim Martin, great mentor of mine, when I started this business 20 years ago, Tim, you're the first office I went and sat down in. Tim's been a great guide for me over the years. And what we were told back then, what the primary thinking in economic development was, it's about location, location, location. Y'all heard that, right? Be on an interstate, have a college, do all those things. It's all about location. Here's the problem. In the last 20 years, the game changed. It's not about location, location, location anymore. Today, it's about talent, talent, talent. Communities that have talent, you heard that from the two executives today. If we've got talent, you'll be successful. If you don't, you won't. And so where's the talent going to come from? How do we get the talent? First of all, before I jump into that, let me really bring you down for a minute. Let's look at this chart. So this is done by an outside group, not us, but it's great data. They categorize every county in the United States. And they look at a variety of different demographics, some of which I'll show you today. And they either say that community today is prosperous, it's borderline distress, or it's in distress. If it's in distress, it's losing population, losing jobs, high unemployment. We'll go all down the list there. Guys, nationwide, 20% of all counties are in distress. In Georgia, 53% of our counties are in distress. We're in the best place to do business, and we're proud of that. But that economic growth is not translating. I know that's why you're doing it. But this data shows it as clearly as any data that we've seen anywhere. And so, all right, why? It's about talent. Let's look at the talent profile. First of all, you've got the existing baby boomer population. To add more problems to what we're dealing with, we're about to face a great tsunami in Georgia. 1 million baby boomers are about to retire in the next 10 years and leave their jobs in Georgia. 1 million. Who's going to take their job? What this map shows is the percentage on the right is in 2030. The counties in white have a senior citizen population over 25%. Think of what that's going to do to your infrastructure, to your healthcare systems. The needs that they're going to have is going to be dramatic to many communities. Today, you've only got 6 or 7 counties in Georgia that have almost 25% of their folks as senior citizens. That great tsunami changes Georgia, it changes how we look, how we vote, and it changes how you tax them. So senior citizens don't pay as much in taxes. So our tax base is going to take another hit and another hit as we go through this. So who's going to replace those 1 million senior citizens and take those other new jobs that we want to create in Georgia? You guys joked about millennials a little while ago. We can joke about them all we want. They are the biggest workforce that ever hit the United States since the baby boomers. They are the salvations of your community. What you see on the left is in the next 12 years, the counties in white will lose millennials. Counties in gray will have a small millennial growth. The counties in gold will have significant millennial growth. Y'all, rural Georgia will lose 1.4% of the millennials that are still there today. And we ain't got a lot of them there today. What we do to keep them there is important, and it's strategies that every community in Georgia has to have. And yes, they want much different things than you and I wanted when we were growing up, when we came into the workforce. They are unwilling to travel to a new job, right? When they come out of college, they're going to go where the opportunities are and then where they want to live, and then that's it. They're not going to move around like we always do to find chasing jobs. So you have to have a strategy for keeping millennials. And right now, that strategy is not being effective. It doesn't look good for rural Georgia. Well, who's coming behind them? Well, that's the Zers. If you haven't heard about them, John, get ready. We'll hear a lot about the Zers. It's kids my son's age who's in going into sixth grade, and kids that are just getting to college today. It's a much smaller pool, but y'all, we don't know a lot about them, but we need to start thinking about them because they are the future workforce too. The numbers a little bit better, but primarily because most of them are still living with their parents. They ain't quite gone out in the world yet to figure it all out. But communities need to figure out now how we keep them. You know, they've got to figure out how to, once they graduate from ABAC, how do I keep them in Tiffin in that region so they don't have to move to Charlotte or to Atlanta. We need to care about these, and part of what we talk to communities about is how they target and keep these young men and women in their communities. What you've also got to do is make sure that that Generation Z, that they are reading at third grade level, because if they're not going to do the jobs that these guys want to hire them to do. Unfortunately, in Georgia right now, only 35% of all of our kids are reading at third grade level. And y'all know that's a big indicator of whether or not they go to prison, whether or not social services, everything else. Brooks, I'm preaching the choir with you. You've been selling this for a long time. Rural Georgia, y'all, has 32% of the kids reading at third grade level, which means, I'm not good at the math, but I think that 68% are not at third grade level. This is the future workforce. What are we doing to make sure those kids are prepared and ready to go? Here's another part of the workforce. The current Generation Xers, the old guys like me, baby boomers that are still in the workforce. Y'all, these are adults in your communities without a high school degree in 2015. The counties in white mean that more than a quarter of the adults working age today don't have a high school degree. There are not a lot of jobs out there for them if they don't have that degree. The counties in gray are 20 to 25%. The counties in gold are 20. Rural Georgia, statewide in rural Georgia, 19% of our adults don't have a high school degree, which means they're not working. This is a little shocking slide for many of the communities that I go into. Today, working age adults, so 18 to 64, and this is adjusted for people with disabilities and other things that can't work. But those that should be working today, 35% of the adults in rural Georgia aren't working. I've been in a couple of communities where this number was as high as 56% of the adults in their communities aren't working today. So what are we doing to help them go from poverty into the mainstream, into the work? What programs are we giving them? What outreach are we making it easier for them? This is a huge issue. The counties in white means that they have more than 45% of their adults not working. Which obviously that has an impact on your mean household income. The mean household income in Georgia, y'all, is just under $50,000. That's below the national average. If you live in Atlanta, things are great. You're making average income up there is over almost $60,000. In rural Georgia, it's $41,000 for a family of four. It's tough to make ends meet at that level. Counties in white have less than 75% of the household income at the state level. Again, you're looking at how much white there is on that map and how impactful that is in rural Georgia. We rank 45th in poverty for all people in the state. I know we don't talk a lot about poverty, the business community does. Y'all do as elected leaders a lot more than we do. These are people that are ready to go to work if we can find a way to move them out of poverty into the workforce. The counties in white on your left means that over 25% of everybody that lives in that county lives in poverty. I hope you look and see where your county is. The more alarming map is the one on the right. Those are children living in poverty in Georgia today. Counties in white mean that over 25% of all the kids in your community live in poverty. This is shocking to a lot of the communities we talk to, but it's mainly shocking because people go the same way home every day and don't drive through different neighborhoods. This is workforce. This is the talent pool we talk about. How are we making them talents and what are we doing? What's the community strategy to get them ready to go to work every day? And one more bigger slide here that impacts healthcare long-term in Georgia. We've been doing a lot of work, even walks in, on uninsured population in Georgia. Things aren't horrible today. So the map on the left, the counties in white, it means that more than 25% of the adults don't have health care insurance in that community. If DC doesn't act, and if Atlanta doesn't act, and our communities don't act, look at the map on the right. In 6 years, all those counties in white mean that over 25% of the adults in those communities don't have health care. That's going to cripple our state and our economy. And here's the bottom line, guys. If you don't have access to health care in your community, there's nothing that Pat Wilson or anybody else can do to get a company to come to your community. You're done. Hang up the door, hang the sign up, close the doors, close the shutters. We have to deal with this issue just like we have to deal with all these others. And so this data is shocking, but it goes back to that whole point. What are we going to do? It's a slap in the face to some communities. We've done this as communities as big as the Gap. We let them know what's happening outside of the halo of Atlanta. But I've done it in communities as small. I was in Talbotton earlier this week. And it was hard for them to understand it and get their hands around it. They're like, we need to hear this. We need to understand what we do. And so real quickly, let me run through a couple of slides that we share with the communities about what they can do, what they need, what needs to happen in their communities. First of all, we talked to them about, there's two separate strategies that they need to have. One's around job creation. Most of them have been doing this for a long time. Small business, recruit companies, that kind of stuff. That's easy. We know how to do that. The state knows how to do it. Allen can help people with small businesses. Those resources are there. What communities aren't doing is they're not having that strategy about how to improve their quality of life to make themselves more attractive for that talent. And the things that young workers want are very different than what we do. And so what we're trying to get local chambers and our partners to do, working together, is say, all right, you need to deal with housing and poverty. You heard about housing this morning. I hear about it everywhere I go. Even in Augusta yesterday, we were told our zoning laws don't make sense for what the type of housing that we need to build today. Local government's got to upgrade their housing permits. So housing and poverty, infrastructure. We spend a lot of time telling communities what you guys have done to give them tools for infrastructure improvements. And we applaud that. Healthcare, obviously. They got to have certain amenities within their communities. Yes. It's not good enough to have an O'Charlie's and a TGI Fridays anymore. Now we got to have farm to table. Now we got to have. It's not good enough to have Budweiser. Now we got to have microbrews. All this stuff is different. But it's what new workers want. It doesn't matter what we want anymore. It's what is going to bring them to your community. You've also got to have a strategy around recruitment and retention of talent. If you know the kids are graduating high school, what are we doing to make sure they stay here? If they graduate from ADAC, what are we doing to keep them in rural Georgia? We're encouraging businesses to go into schools and tell young people about the opportunities at their schools. We're encouraging them to mentor these young people. But here's something else we need to do and our communities need to do. Y'all remember what TV shows did y'all watch growing up, right? Little House on the Prairie. Andy Griffith Show, right? I said Petticoat Junction the other day. I only have one person in the room that remembers it, so I'm really amazed myself, I think. But y'all, we didn't watch Friends or any of these other TV shows that are set in urban climates. The only stuff that we get to see today is all set around urban. The books that we read, the magazines that we read, we've taken a whole generation and not preached the value and the pride in our communities and the rural lifestyle that we all grew up understanding and appreciating growing up in somewhere like O'Sullivan Beach there. That's an easy thing for school systems to go in to do, to figure out ways to start talking about why you have pride in your community, what happened in our community, and to praise that rural lifestyle. That needs to be part of that retention of young people. The other thing that communities need to do, and this is harder for communities, is what's at the bottom of that slide. It's an inclusiveness discussion. If the only people trying to solve the issues look like me or look like you, it's not going to be successful, because Georgia is changing dramatically. And you have to have, as a community leader, everybody needs to be invited to that. Color, creed, sexual orientation, youth, we don't care. Everybody needs to be at the table. And if you don't do that, and you don't think about inclusiveness, then you're going to miss out on the next generation. Because they look past color and everything else. They expect everybody to be at the table. We don't do that very well in this state. And so we tell communities, all right, so put these two strategies together, and then we walk them through what are some opportunities, particularly for rural Georgia and their individual communities. We talk to them about their economic engines. What you see up here are, on the left, are manufacturers that have over 250 employees in Georgia. On the other side are institutions or organizations that have over 1,000 employees. How we focus on them, make sure those institutions continue to grow, how we support them. And then we walk them through the industry sectors that we think are most promising for their communities in rural Georgia. We show them slides that show the economic impact in their regions: agriculture, defense industry. You know, we were talking about defense a year ago, that we were going to close bases. Now we're talking about investing in defense, keeping our bases open, growing our bases. What are we doing? What's the strategy in the community to grow those sectors? Tourism is an incredible opportunity. We talked about it at breakfast this morning. We've barely scratched the surface on recruiting people to visit our communities. When I was in Hawkinsville running the Chamber of Commerce, I figured out pretty quickly is the best marketing that I could do to recruit companies to town was to market us as a tourist destination, talk about the things to do in our community, the quality of life. We can't just do that through Southern Living ads anymore. We have to have a different approach to how we promote. When I was commissioner of DNR, I told our staff, I said, guys, we're in the tourism business, not just in the conservation business. What are we doing to help those communities grow? Tons of opportunities around tourism and the creative economy. Advanced manufacturing, a lot of opportunities for us. Logistics and transportation, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Healthcare. Somebody's got to take care of those million baby boomers. We need 33% more primary care physicians in this state in the next 10 years than we have today. Not all the specialists, just primary care physicians. More nurses, more everybody in this sector. But this is an economic opportunity. We look at our hospitals like they're just there to provide care. The truth is they're economic engines in our community. What are we doing to make sure that they're strong? And then we wrap up with the communities, and what we leave it with them is that they have to have a different approach and a new approach to leadership. It can't just be government solving. It can't just be the business community solving. And we can't leave nonprofits over here on their own trying to figure out how to do it. We have to bring everybody together. And again, this is shocking. This is different for some of the communities where we go into and work every day. But you have to have the private sector. You have to have government. Bring higher ed to the table. They're the ones who generate that talent for you. Plus, they got all that intellectual capital. Let them be at the table. Bring the faith-based community to the table. The love of everything. They're the best ones to deal with many of the issues that we talked about, but they need to do it in coordination. And too often we leave them out to figure it out. I'm on the board at our church of our outreach mission that does training for people if they want to use our food bank. There's a model we can replicate all over, and all of the churches in our community funded, not just our church. Business and civic organizations all have to work together. And as difficult as the numbers are, we're already seeing some communities out there that are figuring this out and that are doing it. My hometown of Fitzgerald, Georgia. You know, in the 1990s way, we were out there. We were bringing in businesses, things were going great. And then through those recessions, the world collapsed. We lost our biggest manufacturers. Things were horrible. And then we actually got into a spat early, about 5 years ago where, the African American commissioners had their own economic development, the white commissioners had theirs, nobody would work together. No company's going to come to that community. So we had a tough discussion in Fitzgerald, a very difficult discussion. That community got their act together, elected some new people, some people retired, a couple people died, I admit. Helped from time to time. Lord took them out. Lord took them out. Moving slow. African Americans, white business leaders came together, the faith community came together and said, we're going to die on the vine if we don't do something. And today, they've got probably more prospects in the pipeline of any community that I know of in South Georgia. Tipton's doing extremely well. Moultrie's figured it out. Thomasville's figured it out. We've got great examples, and we're going to do our part to share their stories out there. But every one of them has got to deal with these issues that we laid out. And so our strategy is to tell this story, help communities put together these strategies. We work with the Georgia Allies. I know Pat talked about it yesterday, but we've been going into communities, helping them, having a real heart-to-heart conversation about you got to change this, get this done. We've got a group now to help tourism entities out there. We just did this at the River Aquarium and all this to help them put together a new strategic plan. So a lot of it, these communities have to figure it out, and decide what they want to do. Some communities not going to do it. No matter what we do and tell them, they're okay to just, the status quo is fine, they're going to with it. But those that want to get it done, we need to give them support. And so we're going to do this with the communities, and then we're going to come back, Mr. Chairman, to you guys a little bit later with some policy recommendations at the state level of ways to help and give them some air cover, if you will, for those that want to do something different. I went through a lot of data real quickly to go through this back on track.
Other questions? Representative Hatchett, I feel like I'm in a tennis match. Representative Hatchett.
Chairman. Chris, we talked about this quite a bit, especially since you came to Dublin, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and you can't be cloned. You can only do so much. What are you, I know you're hitting as many communities as you can, but are you going to be possibly bringing chamber people into your office and have many sessions of this to hit as many communities as you can? Because as much as I think our community is doing great and doing this really opened a lot of eyes in our community, and it's one of probably the best things I think that's happened in the last recent time period. And I can't stress how I appreciate y'all doing what you're doing, and it really opens a lot of people's eyes and makes us look down the road where we need to be looking.
We're doing it for associations. We bring all the local chamber people. Economic doing it before the Georgia Economic Developers Association, which Tim and I have chaired in the past. We're doing that in September. So yeah, we're getting this message out to everybody. But what we're also doing is once we kind of finish this tour in a week and a half, and then what we'll do is go into communities like I did in Tattleton on Monday night and have a real frank discussion. We did it with Valdosta John a few weeks ago with a group of leaders down there. But it's one thing to hear it, but the other thing is how do we follow up with them? And that's a discussion we're having with a lot of communities now. Okay, you got the data. Who's going to call the question and bring everybody back together and then put the plan together? And so we're helping communities with that as well. Yes.
Chairman Parsons.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chris. That was a really good presentation. Obviously we have a drug problem in the state. But Georgia's not unique. Rural Georgia's not unique to that. But I'm convinced even more from this meeting, these 2 days that part of the problem is drug problems throughout the state. You had mentioned, if I got this right, that in some of these counties, and I think in particular you were talking about rural Georgia, 45% to 56% of the adult population is not working. Was that correct? That doesn't jive up. I know that the unemployment is based on people seeking employment, things like that, but that's so far off from unemployment numbers. That's just, but how, I'm just curious, I don't know that you have the answer, I don't guess any of it, but how in the world do these people, 45 to 56% of the population not working, how do they even live? They got to eat something, even if they're a drug addict. I'm just curious.
I think what you have to do is cross-reference that. I don't have that data.
Yeah, I know.
With public assistance numbers as well.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
I guess the bottom line, my my point. It's just shocking, and I appreciate, I mean, you can't always bring good news. That's not what we're here about, but I appreciate you making the point, though.
Right. And I would say, too, we are developing some, we're working with the Drug and Alcohol Council, which is an affiliate of the Chamber, on some maps for you about drug abuse. The initial maps that we showed were North Georgia, South Georgia heavy, and then it's creeping into Middle Georgia and into the suburbs now. You know, it's this opioid epidemic. I've talked to my peers up in the Northeast where this epidemic started and the impact it is having on the economy and their workforce. And we're starting to see that here. You heard it today. When we met with the local chamber presidents up here a few weeks ago, it was shocking when they just went through their numbers and the problems that they were having in their own hospitals and in their school systems even with that drug issue. So that's a growing issue for us. We'll have some data hopefully at the end of the month.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. Mine piggybacks on Chairman Parsons. Same thing I took away from this. The 45% of one of the counties I was following of the working age were not working, but a couple slides later, less than 20% of that same county was below the poverty level. Then that brought back a discussion we had at dinner last night. Somebody brought up a quote that Senator Johnny Isaacson said, and I probably don't have it exact, but said when the incentive not to work outweighs the incentive to work, we as a country are in trouble. And are we at that point? That'd be my question.
Well, we are. I actually had a meeting last week with one of our members who was talking about the difficulty of hiring people. And his point is that he had a single mom that worked for him. And I won't get this exactly right, so I'll paraphrase it. Single mom working for him, entry-level job, and she was on public assistance. He wanted to promote her. She'd done a great job. He could see a path for her. He got ready to promote her. She came in and said, when you promote me, and she was only going to make like $2.50 more an hour, she would lose 75% of her benefits with the 3 kids that she had at home. And she goes, I can't afford, because you're not going to make up the difference of it. So we've just incentivized her not to go to the next level. The other thing that we've heard clearly from our manufacturers is that they've realized that they're going to have to start paying higher wages for talent, particularly in rural communities. Whether or not they pay high enough wages to incentivize people to move off to public assistance, I don't know. But absolutely. I'll give you another, if I can real quick, Mr. Chairman, another story from Monday. So Monday I was in Manchester. I'm sorry, it's been a long week. I was in Manchester Monday, and I met with a company that does medical devices. They've been doing medical devices of some form in that building for 30 years. This particular company's been there 20 years. They have 78 highly skilled workers now. They have lots of certifications. Most of their workers are African American women, many of them single moms in that community. They make the stuff that goes into your heart, the stents, the valves. Incredible what they do there. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Their company that owns them is in New York. They decided to close that plant. 73 great workers were all offered a job to move to New York to take that job. Every one of them declined. Said, we want to stay here. And so now that community, when we sat down with them, they're like, well, you know, we've been marketing this building. It's a 60,000 square foot building. It's not remarkable. And what I tried to explain to them is they're thinking about economic development wrong. What they need to do is get the certifications of all the talent of those women that work there. And that's what they need to be selling. Don't worry about selling a building. I can find you a building anywhere in the world. Tim probably even got a couple up here for you, right? Always got one for you. But having 73 workers that are talented and qualified, I said we need to be taking that to every incubator in Georgia. Everybody's got a startup. It's a different way of thinking about economic development. If we don't find those jobs for those talented folks, that's the biggest manufacturer in that community. That's what we're thinking. I'm glad I lifted the spirits of everybody in the community. Really what I go for. It's the shoes.
One more.
I get in trouble. There's a certain segment of this state that doesn't like me in the hospital community. And every time I turn around, somebody has tried to work with the people down in the Albany area and that major hospital that's bought up a lot of other small hospitals and surrounding. It's Phoebe Putney. and they're our highest cost area, which, I mean, is anybody having any influence? They're not in our safety nest system for accidents or anything. They won't come into that system. It's the one part of the state that's still not covered. And they're such a high cost. Now one of our groups that's going to carry our Medicaid patients, who's very concerned about matching up their clients with life coaches and trying to find them jobs and all, can't get a contract with them. You know, where do we get somebody to influence Phoebe Putney to be a little bit more workable and reasonable in trying to help us? Because I understand companies won't go there because the healthcare costs are so high, some of the highest in the United States.
Well, I think, so a couple things. First of all, we only have one provider that'll even work in Southwest Georgia, so that's part of the issue too.
Right.
So that's not, I don't think you just put that just on Phoebe Putney, but I'll say on the other side, I can't answer all those questions, Chairman, but I can say for many people in that region, if it wasn't for Phoebe Putney, there'd be nothing else there.
Oh no, they're important.
Folks in America are proud that they spend the money that they don't have to spend in their community to run a hospital.
Right.
And so I think there's a little bit of the good and the bad. You just have to figure out how you balance that out. And I don't know.
I guess I just want somebody in government to know, somebody to try to work with them to do something. I mean, because every time we turn around, whether it's the beer company there, and I can't remember the name, they won't expand for more employees. They may have already closed by now. The tire company, I think, closed because it was the highest health care area in the country.
The tire company closed for a lot of different reasons. It
What?
wasn't just because of the health care.
Right, but one of them was
I'll
health.
tell you the sentiment in Albany today, because we spent a lot of time there. After the tornadoes that went through, P&G, Coates and Clark, those companies, they're not running away. They're doubling down.
Good.
They're investing there, and they're going to have more workers there. Proud of that. But they also know they do have a quality health care system. I don't know about the cost.
Yeah.
But they know they have access.
That's a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate
Same
what
people.
you're doing again. You know my commitment to what we're doing. You know my passion for this. We look forward to working with you with some of the other pieces of it, and Elizabeth will be with you.
Well, y'all are a very good partner, and the fact that y'all are doing it at the same time as we are doing it, the coordination so that we don't replow that field is very welcome, and we appreciate what y'all are doing because y'all can go places we can't go and get access to data that we can't get. So thank you very much, Chris. We're going to take a 10 to 15 minute break, so come back quick.
I can get my co-chairman back up here. Thought he was ready to go. He was motioning for me to come over here a while ago, and then he gets up and walks off. So our next presenter is someone that some of you have met, and Commissioner Black had mentioned a little while ago when he was making his comments about Jack Spruill being the Director of Marketing for the Department of Ag. Jack is what I consider my best friend on the face of this planet, and I'm tickled today to have him with us. I've eaten probably just about as many meals with my feet under his table as I have my own, but I wish we had a nickel for every mile that one of us has followed the other one around a hay field, either raking or baling hay over the last 15, 18 years, ever how long it's been. But Jack, we're glad to have you with us. And Jack has been at the department now about 7 years, and grew up farming, married into a farming family, milked dairy cows until that wasn't popular or profitable anymore. Also worked for a national company, De La Valle, that makes milking equipment, and traveled the southeastern United States as kind of their troubleshooter. But Jack, we're glad to have you with us and looking forward to what you got to say. And the podium, the microphone, whatever is yours.
Apparently I ran everybody off. Camera people hate me, but I'd really like not to emulate Chris Carr, but podiums tend to be too short for me. And I've got a really big mouth. Fellow Chairman, thank you for inviting me here today. Folks, I'm fixing to show you the most important slide from any of these presentations that you'll see. This to me is the most important slide. I want you to etch it into your memory. I actually am probably the only human who sat and watched on video every minute of the presentations exhibit. Now, I don't think many people did that. That's how much interest I have got in what you're doing. And this next slide is why I've got that much interest in what you're doing. Whoop. Use the scroll on the side. That's the most important slide you'll see in this entire event. Those are my 10 grandchildren. The reason that this commission is so important to me is because 7 of those 10 can look out their back window of their home and see cotton growing and center pivots running. 3 of them are not living where there's cotton and center pivots, but they're living part of the tractor in the backyard and what Father's doing as an ag teacher. And I want those children to have the opportunity, if they so choose, to stay in rural Georgia. I don't want them to have to escape rural Georgia. That's the reason I say this is important. It's the most important slide to me, and the reason I am passionate about this. I'm the most blessed man in the world to have those healthy 10 grandchildren. Some of you may go into Chairman England's office and see pictures of those children. And Terry made a statement one time, and I hate to correct the chairman, but he told something that was totally untrue. Chairman England told a real untruth. He told someone that he claimed those grandchildren as his own. And that, folks, is not true. Those grandchildren claimed Terry England as their own. And maybe there's something wrong with it. They do not know.
Moving along.
They do not know what a member of the House of Representatives is. They don't know what he's the chairman of. They could care less what Terry England's titles are. They love him because of who he is and how he treats them. And that should be a life lesson to a lot of us. That should be what we try to do in our lives. So those are my 10 grandchildren. 8 knock-headed little boys and 2 of the sweetest little girls you've ever seen in your life. I've got a double standard, I openly admit. I do openly admit. 7 of those live in Kaufman County today, 3 of them live in Jackson County. How did I do this? I'm passionate that that's not the view they have. I don't want them to spend the 40 years of their working life doing what I do today with the collapse of I-85. I think there can be life outside of the laboratory. I hope there is. But unfortunately, when we sit here and look at these tail lights, this sometimes is the tail lights that we think rural Georgia sees. Yes, there's a view of tail lights there, but that's not exactly the same. And folks, that's not the rural Georgia we're in today. I have trouble, and coming behind Chris with such an uplifting, inspiring, optimistic thing, I admit to you that I did not run out and slit my wrist, but I thought about it. I have trouble equating the prosperity in any part of the state with jobs. They're interwoven, they're connected. And I think we have an anomaly here in Stevens County that is not shared with all of Georgia in the fact that they are honestly and truthfully telling us that they can't find qualified employees, they can't get applicants. And I don't think that's true all over the state. But one of the things I'd like to share with you today in terms of production agriculture, I don't think we can look at it as the solution to jobs. Turn of the century, this was production agriculture in the state. We were growing 5 million acres of cotton, 40 acres in a mule. Then we started finally in the mechanical and mechanization era, and we did that, and we were able to have more production with less farms. This is what it looks like today, folks. It's a different world. I want to share with you that, quite honestly, I've always wanted to say this. I've looked for a reason. But production agriculture and job creation are diametrically opposed to each other. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. I graduated from the University of Georgia just a few years ago. Way back in the 70s, the price of cotton the year I graduated from college was 93 cents a pound. What's the price of cotton today? 72. Folks, that's not inflation-corrected dollars. How have farmers managed to do that? Efficiency. The cost per acre labor, hired labor for a cotton farmer today has fallen about 6-fold. They can't afford to employ people. So production agriculture, David Bridges is not here to hear me, but production agriculture is not the successful key to creation of jobs. I think they're opposed to each other. I don't see how they can be together. If we look at cotton as the example, I'm putting in this classification cotton, soybeans, corn, all of the major commodities, peanuts, they're all doing the same thing. They've all seen slumps in prices, increases in efficiency, and less actual jobs being out there. Today, since the picture of the view, when we grew 5 million acres of cotton in Georgia, today we're growing a little over 1 billion acres. Question for you, is that the largest row crop in the state? It is large. Peanuts, where are peanuts rated in that? Where are peanuts in that? Almost half. Almost half the number of acres. Cost per investment's higher, about half the acres. Now, I put these graphs up here simply because when I watched the thing and tipped it, everybody had these convoluted graphs I couldn't understand, and I felt like I was obliged to do so. Everybody put graphs up.
I don't have any.
Thomas, you let me down. I thought it was a requirement to put graphs up. If you look at this graph and try to figure on it what it is, it talks about cotton acreage versus production. It talks about how we have gained efficiency of production, how production has changed dramatically. You can see back at the turn of the century, 1908, where we did have 5 million acres of cotton in this state. You can see the dramatic slump caused by what? Boll weevil. We can see the impact of the boll weevil on cotton acreage. We can see the rebound. But look at the production in terms of acres and bales. You will notice there at one point in time, acreage and bales were almost exactly the same as a bale per acre. Now we're going toward 2 bales per acre. So these efficiencies have come about. If we look at this, cotton acres versus average production. What happened here? There was a dramatic spike in 1996, and then in 1997 was genetically modified cotton. One of the things that is wrong-headed, in my opinion, is that the GMO cottons caused dramatic increases in production. They really didn't. What they caused were dramatic reductions in field work necessary and dramatic reductions in pesticides and herbicides we had to utilize. Tremendous cost savings. But it was not the real increase in production. I will share with you the increase in production there from 92 to 96 was primarily planter technology. We were able to get better stands. We were able to do more uniform planting and have a better success rate. Fruits, nuts, and vegetable crops. These have grown dramatically, up to a 33% increase in fruits and nuts because of blueberries in Georgia. Vegetable production in Georgia, because of some of the things going on in California with water restrictions, vegetable production has continued to grow in this state. How many jobs has it grown, is the question. Who do we depend on that does the primary part of the labor in this? H-2A and migrant labor. How many jobs are we creating in Georgia? I will tell you probably more than we think. Because with every one of these, we may have migrant labor. I wish Sam Watson was here. We can talk about the support. We can talk about the infrastructure it requires. We can talk about irrigation. We can talk about all the things that it does bring to the table. I think it's a positive impact, but I don't think it's as big as we wish it was. Number one crop, Vidalia onions. That's the largest vegetable. It will vary. It's always over 100 million pretty well. That's the largest vegetable. Followed by sweet corn, watermelons, bell pepper. We're growing lots of these. We are flush with these. Most valuable fruit crop. Fruits and nuts, it's still pecans. We're the #1 pecan industry in the United States by far. We are hugely the biggest. And look at blueberries, 3 times as big as peaches. Robert, shame on us. We're still the peach state. How many jobs did these create? How many jobs did that growth in fruit and nut production and vegetable production create? A good question.
We'd rather be the peach state than the fruit and nut state.
How many farming operations are there in Georgia? We can debate these numbers. These numbers we can debate. The gate card, the Georgia agricultural tax exemption. Is that number accurate or are there too many? We can debate that. The thing I don't think we can debate is the USDA survey numbers that show a drop in 2006 from 49,000 to the 2016 survey of 41,800. I think those trends are going to continue. Production, agricultural are getting bigger, fewer in number. That's probably a trend that we're not going to do a lot about. Not Georgia. All states are doing a lot of what I would call economic hunting. We're after the big bad bear. We're going to go out and we're going to capture it. Now, I'm an omnivore. Trust me, I can enjoy a good steak. I'm not opposed. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, so I'm not opposed to economic hunting. And we've had lots of successes, lots of glorious successes with what I will term economic hunting. These are some of the successes that we can hang our hat on and be proud of. Some of the things that have come to this state recently. I think we're all aware of most every one of those. The Baxter process out there in Covington area. We've got those things. But what is really, if you take Kia out of that, and where does this economic hunting hit? Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta is the beneficiary of most of the economic hunting. Now, I will say this is what we're hunting in terms of rural Georgia. What is that? It's the woolly mammoth. Why did I use the woolly mammoth? It's extinct. And I will tell you, in terms of us attracting with our economic hunting a woolly mammoth to rural Georgia, I think it is extinct. I think that we have a lot of problems to get one of these type industries to move into rural Georgia.
I think if we are looking for that, we're looking for something that could be extended, my opinion. I like the term economic gardening. I think that's what we at the Department of Agriculture are doing. Now, you can Google the term economic gardening, and you will see more written on it than you can ever read. It was originally a term founded by an MIT graduate who really believed in his heart and soul that everything already existed as companies in place, and all you had to do was go cultivate and grow those existing companies. I like that attitude, but if I go to Tolliver County, Georgia, what have I got to cultivate? There's nothing there already to cultivate. It's non-existent. So I think we, in our terms in agriculture, from the Department of Agriculture vantage point, look at it as a modified from the program that the MIT graduate wrote. I challenge you, if you'd like to look at what is probably a model closer to Georgia's, go to Indiana. Indiana and Purdue University have done a pretty fair modeling of economic gardening. But in terms of the Department of Agriculture, this is one of the things I'd like to say. It would be nice in our goal to only plant perennials. Perennials versus annuals. Annuals, you must plant them every year. Perennials are there for the long term. We want, if we can, with economic gardening, to put in perennials. They don't need to be replanted every darn year. So we want perennials. We want those that are going to be there. So this is not Commissioner Black's speech. He is not responsible for what I'm telling you today. So if he gets in trouble and opinion is wrong, it's Jack's opinion. What, in my estimation, is an annual today? To me, if I look at what I consider in state economy an annual, and everybody here is welcome to disagree with me, I wonder if the film industry is not an annual. I wonder if they wouldn't go somewhere else if they saw a bright, shiny object they could go to. That's my concern. I'm not opposed to it, but I want something that established roots and is not going to be enticed to the next bright, shiny object. And I don't think those people have firm roots in Georgia. I think they would be attracted to the next bright, shiny. So, if we look at this process of gardening, every slide you will see has the Georgia Grown logo on it, because I consider that as an economic development program of the Department of Agriculture and what we're trying to do. And I think in terms of Georgia Grown, the analogy to economic gardening works out well for us. And what are we going to do when we garden? First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at tilling. We're going to remove the unnecessary and burdensome regulations and some of the zoning concerns we have. We run into zoning concerns with agritourism locations almost constantly. The local zoning is a problem. Lower barriers for entry for small businesses. The cottage food license that we introduced. There's some 900 people in this state taking advantage of that. We need to make regulations that we can grow businesses with from our side of the Department of Agriculture. We need to weed this garden. Folks, everybody's dream is not going to be successful. We make a joke at the Department of Agriculture and the Georgia Grown program. What we really need badly is another barbecue sauce. Folks, there are more barbecue sauces in this state than we could ever consume. If your dream in your life and you want us to nurture you and you want us to cultivate you and your business model is another barbecue sauce, I don't know that we don't need to weed you pretty quick. I don't know that that's ever going to work. Nurture, fertilize. This is where we have great partners. Georgia Development Authority, relationships we have with the Ag Lending Institutes and Farm Credit System. We try to talk about these. We talk about the grants, the loans. We talk about what we can do. Pest control, regulatory education and guidance. All regulations are not perfect, but we at the Department of Agriculture love to say we want to explain the regulations. We want to help you get in business and stay in business. And let's go up front with these regulations before you run into the brick wall. Now, whoa, back up. Fertigation. Another reason I want to sound Watson here. When we supply the nutrients in drip irrigation directly to the root system and fertilize that plant and feed it what it needs as it needs it, that's a lot more efficient than center pivot irrigation systems. We don't grow many vegetables under center pivot. We don't broadcast water to them. When we're nurturing these things and these plants, these bell peppers, these eggplants and things, we do it through direct applications, controlled applications, strict water regulation usage, and fertilizer nutrients based on leaf samples of what those plants need. And I think that has some merit. To give you an example of what I will tell you, in my opinion, is center pivot irrigation. Look at a program in Tennessee called the Tennessee Agriculture Enhancement Program. Tennessee Agriculture Enhancement Program since 2005 has pumped about $115 million out of state budgets into agriculture. If you survey the most popular Department of Agriculture in the United States today, it is probably the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, because they're broadcasting money. That's a heck of a way to make friends and influence people. I think anybody could do that. They are trying to make these grants and make these available to people to increase the diversity in agriculture in Tennessee. They'll build you a hay barn. They will buy you a bull. This is the kind of grant program that is, folks. That's broadcast. I think we've got to be more focused in what we do, hence fertigation. What do we do? What's the equipment? What are the equipment needs? These are the things I hear in my travels. One of the things that seems to be a barrier, and I have trouble differentiating today between food and agriculture. The commissioner says we at the Department of Agriculture speak ag. Most of our society today speaks food. And I don't have a way to distinguish the two from each other. Do we need, and this is a constant need I get asked about, we need more cooler space. We don't have enough cooler space for our product. We need more packing houses. We need some more shared commercial kitchens so these businesses, these food businesses, have a method to start up. After we graduate from cottage food, where we go, we need a commercial kitchen. We can't afford to build one. Is there an opportunity for shared commercial kitchens? We need to utilize state market assets more. We have got 3 markets in this state that have a lot of unused real estate. Could we do something in partnership? Could we do something as ground leases to help some of these people? We're open. Flash freeze, met with a group in Lowndes County, a group of vegetable producers in Lowndes County, and they said, we demand some type of flash freeze facility. University of Georgia has done some great research that shows, and I think it's always been applied. So somewhere on every TV commercial, eat your fresh fruits and vegetables. Folks, we live in a seasonal climate in Georgia, and they're not always fresh, but fresh frozen is the same quality, and some work from the University of Georgia has shown it's actually in some ways superior quality. Some of the nutrients are actually enhanced. So there's some work on flash freeze. We've got some real estate. Somebody wants to do it, we'll do everything we can to ground lease and help them with that. Everybody talks about the transportation and infrastructure. That's certainly not the Department of Agriculture's focus, and not much we can do about that. With the Georgia Grown program, what have been our successes and our focuses? We've done some things we think are right. Number one, we're trying to build a recognizable common state brand. I think we are still in the infancy of its growth. I told somebody that the greatest success I had was one of those 10 grandchildren riding in the cart with his mother through the grocery store was saying, "Mama, buy that." He had no concept of what it was, but he saw a Georgia Grown logo on it. I think that's what we're trying to do with that. So there are some good things coming, exposure and sales opportunities. We try and work to get seed placement in the retail stores. We've had some good programs in cooperation with Kroger. 75 billboards around Metro Atlanta telling people to buy Georgia Grown fruits and vegetables. Subway. Anybody see the Subway focus of last year? When Subway first called us, we said, oh no, me too. We're going to have everybody claiming. They had to prove to us and let us interview the farmers that indeed were supplying the products they were maintaining as Georgia Grown. All us angle, but we just didn't want to believe that they were telling us the truth. So we actually went and talked to the farmers and said, are you really doing what they say? That program was good. Georgia Grown Trails, agritourism, working with them, trying to build that part of the economy, opening markets, including school nutrition. The commissioner always loves to talk about the 2020 vision for school nutrition. The largest restaurant in the state of Georgia is school cafeterias. Why are they not feeding more Georgia Grown product? They need to be. One thing I like to talk about is the commission, Cotton Commission, and the joint venture we have going right now. We learned a terrible lesson 5 years ago at the Georgia National Fair. It was a lesson I will never forget. We were real proud that we had a Georgia Grown t-shirt. And we were offering for sale in conjunction with market bulletin subscriptions. We were selling you a Georgia Grown t-shirt. Proud to be Georgia Grown. And people were loving those shirts. And there was a lady came up to me and she said, how dare you? You should be ashamed. And I said, well, ma'am, maybe I should. Why? She said, this shirt was made in Honduras. And I was a little bit ashamed. No, I was a whole lot ashamed. In conjunction with the Cotton Commission, very soon, hopefully in August of this year, you will be able to see the cotton farmer who grew the shirt. You will know that it was ginned in Ocilla, Georgia, who grew it. You will know that it was grown in Georgia. You will know that it was sown in Georgia, in the big city of Ticknell, Georgia. And we are going to be able to say with truth and honesty, this Georgia Grown shirt is a Georgia Grown shirt. And that took a lot of work, but we're real proud of it. From my dirt to your shirt. So that's going to be a good thing. No animosity toward what economic development's doing. Please understand, it's not the purpose of this. I think we all know about the red carpet tour where we're trying to get the next woolly mammoth. I think there's a lot of validity in that. I think they do great things. But one of the things the commissioner has brought up several times is maybe we need an ag-centric tour, a green carpet tour. These figures, folks, have been provided to me. The largest watermelon packing facility in this state is owned by a gentleman who I really admire, Mr. Buddy Legier. I was there when most of that equipment was being installed in that facility. That equipment was sourced from California. Mr. Buddy Legier is also in the pecan business. He lives south of the Nat line, so he grows pecans, not pecans. And he said, another real problem we have is that 90% plus, I can quantify this, of the pecan harvesting and processing equipment we buy out of California. If we look at the vegetable sorting, vegetable grading, production line equipment for vegetables and for fruits, Michigan and or California. Blueberry harvesting equipment, primarily out of Michigan. Directly from the State Department of Agriculture's website in California, they make this statement. California is the leader in ag innovation. California is the nation's leader in agriculture and has been for more than 50 years. I hope nobody is here from California. I would not want to offend you, but boom. Jerry Brown, the governor of the state of California, in his budget, he sliced ag education and the FFA program and said that California has outgrown the need for agriculture education. We no longer need it. We no longer can support it, and it is now no longer a part of the state budget. He did not expect the reaction he got. I think they literally marched on Sacramento, and it was reinstalled. But for how long, folks? For how long? Businesses we know with the business environment in California are trying to escape. They want to get out of there. These ag businesses, I think we should try to talk to. Do these need to be production agriculture? I'm not opposed to that. I don't think anybody says that we will not accept our refugees from California. If they want to migrate to here, we'll give them a green card. Georgia Department of Agriculture, direct statement. This is the only statement that is Gary Black's. Georgia Department of Agriculture is willing to guide, facilitate, and assist in any way possible if such a tour, such an outreach were to be established. We don't speak all the economic development terms, but we speak dirt and agriculture. We're glad to be a part of that if we need to be. And I'm going to close with this last statement that I see every day when I walk in the Department of Agriculture's building. A quote from George Washington: "I know of no pursuit in which more real and important services can be rendered to any country than by improving its agriculture." And I think that that is very true. David Bridges said it in his speech in Tiffin. How do you separate agriculture from rural Georgia? You can't. I think that's a very real thing. Mr. Chair, questions?
Do we have any questions for Jack at this point? I'm going to ask Jack if he will hang around. Thomas is going to present, and we're going to have everybody that presented this morning are still here come back up at 10. We'll take a few questions and answers and stuff too. Does anybody have something hot pressing for Jack before he sits down? All right, Jason. Excuse me, come share.
I think one of the things in the ag sector of rural Georgia that most people that are in ag recognize is that a lot of the value added happens somewhere else. And I guess my question is, there have been circumstances like in Douglas, Georgia, I believe, there were a group of buying point operators that actually formed a shelling plant so that they got to take advantage of the value added. I think the same things happened like maybe in Seminole County. It's happened a lot in the cotton industry with the cotton gins. Is there any effort in the department to identify those kinds of value added that actually could bring jobs, but also help the ag industry retain the money rather than shipping the money someplace else, whether it's a feedlot in the Midwest or whatever it may be, rather than taking our crops or taking our cattle, shipping them to the Midwest where they're fed out and then processed and then shipped back to us to eat. So is the department making any effort in trying to identify capital that could then help the ag producers to capitalize on that?
For a short period of time, the Center of Innovation for Agriculture in Tifton was under the control of the Department of Agriculture. Right, wrong, or otherwise, that's not my decision. But the commissioner challenged them to give us a tally of what kind of beef imports. I mean, we're the largest cow-calf producer in the East Coast other than Florida. Why are we, as you say, Chairman, shipping all of these calves to Kansas to be finished, processed there, and then trucked back? The carbon footprint of the trucks alone just makes common sense. So we were trying to look at how these people are buying. The challenge was, how are they buying? What are they buying? And what can we do to fill that need without all that transportation cost? FPL Foods has just opened the first major feeding facility in the state we've had in a long time with some newer technology. We've been there, we've talked to them, we've done everything we can to support their efforts. But one of the things we're looking at right now, Sydney will appreciate this because of what her first cousin does, we're talking about the dairy industry. We've had multiple meetings with them. If you look at milk, fluid milk consumption, it's the oddest thing you've ever seen. It's almost like an ocean wave. We see milk coming to Georgia from Indiana and Ohio, and milk from Georgia going to Florida and Alabama. Well, that's not really wise use of resources. So one of the questions that's been asked by multiple people, why don't we do something more proactive? And there's probably about 7 dairies in the state if they had their own facility to process that milk. And it was labeled on the shelf as 100% Georgia-grown milk produced by 100% Georgia farmers. Would not the consumers buy it? Well, there's some research at Cornell that says yes, they would, and they'd be willing to pay a 15% premium. Why don't we take advantage of some of that stuff? So we've talked multiple levels of it. We're always open to it. Yes, we would love to do more things on that.
Darlene.
Thank you. That's one of the issues that I have in my district over the last 20 years or so. We've actually lost 2 food processing. One was Roddenberry Pickles and Sunny Lane Foods. So those are issues. Why can't we bring those type of industries back to our communities? It's exactly what you're talking about. How do we go about doing this?
I wish I knew, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. We've touched on these odd things just a little bit, called millennials. I work with some of those creatures. I will tell you there's 2 types of millennials. There's AMs and PMs. Now that's not early and late. AM millennials are after marriage. They become almost normal. PM millennials are when they're single. But the lesson I've learned, and it goes back to these questions. I have a young lady who's working in our office now who is from Wheeler County. She said, I would love to go. I would love to go to Wheeler County. But what the heck would I do? I've got a degree from the University of Georgia. I have no job. I don't want to go where I can't work. Have a young man from Hillsboro, Georgia. He's going to watch this and be very embarrassed. He said, I left Hillsboro, Georgia. I had a choice. I either went to the University of Georgia and moved to Metro Atlanta, or I stayed in Hillsboro, Georgia, where we have our regular social club meetings on the tailgates of trucks and drink Cokes and beer and eat peanuts. And I chose not to be that lifestyle. So, another point for the millennium. I know I'm going over time. The question was asked, and I point blank asked him. I have a job opening for you, fictitious. It will triple your salary. The only thing you have to do is move to Cordele, Georgia. He said, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Will not do it for triple the salary. About a week later, I reposed the question. I said, remember our question about Cordele? He said, yes. I said, there's a young company, an upstart company, moving to Cordele out of California, and they're needing somebody to employ there that has your skill set. Would you consider it? He said, absolutely. I said, what kind of salary range? He said, salary's not important, it's the challenge. It's what I could get offered. And there is, in his mind, this fictitious belief that a company from California is more progressive, and therefore he's coming in on the ground floor or something. I don't understand millennials, David. I'm not pretending to, but these were real questions to them. Thank you.
I got a question.
All right, need one more.
Quick follow-up on what Representative Taylor said, but like in the pork industry, isn't it just dominated by a few people, and like Smithville is owned by the Chinese?
Yes.
And so we couldn't really, I don't know who owns Sunnyland now. But
If-
it's
if-
sort of a,
If we look at protein sources, by protein sources in school systems, folks, we got a bountiful supply of chicken. We don't finish a lot of the beef, but we've got a bountiful supply of beef. If we look at a hole in that protein system, we have annihilated, whether it's intentional or by regulations or whatever. And I openly stand here and admit, I don't want to live next to a 12,000 sow confinement hog operation. But we've got some places in Georgia where they could locate where they ain't no people within 7 miles of them. But they're not here. Thank you, Jack.
Our next presenter this morning is Thomas Carter. He is the Executive Director of the Georgia Development Authority, and Thomas comes from a background of about 30 years in the farm credit system. And I don't know if many folks in the state that understand anything other than electronics better than ag lending than what Thomas does. He might be a little technologically challenged, but he still uses an abacus there in the office, so he doesn't have to.
Directionally challenged this morning. I like to never found this one. I tell you, some rural development hint right now that would help would be street. Try to put some street numbers up.
Or just a sign.
Lord have mercy, I was all over this guy. I sure do appreciate y'all letting me come. I know I'm between y'all and a good lunch. But, and I've got to follow Jack, and that's a tough act to follow. And Jack's got me terribly jealous with those 10 grandchildren he's got. And I just got my baby girl married off in March. My son's been married for over a year, and I have 0 grandchildren. But I'm looking forward to it someday, Jack. But sure appreciate y'all letting us come here and offer our wares and show you what we do. We're very tight with the Georgia Department of Agriculture. As a matter of fact, we're assigned to them for administrative purposes. We got 2 of the top 3 Georgia commodities up here. We got broilers, we got beef. I think that might be David Skinner's old beef cattle, so tell him I gave him a plug. We got eggs in between the 2 of them. But you know, you see a lot of that on the road up here into this area. Well, what's happening? It's moving. I'm getting off on a tangent here. I'm gonna reel back in, but it's moving. There are counties in this state that love poultry. There are counties in this state that are making it part of the poultry that exists. Y'all keep that in mind. I'm tickled to death to be with you. Maybe I'll get this thing working. There we go. This is our board of directors, Commissioner Gary Black. He is our chairman. Greg S. Griffin, he's our vice chairman. He's the state auditor. Mr. Jake Redmond from down in Houston County, he's our secretary. Mr. Pat Wilson, with the Commissioner of Georgia Department of Economic Development, he's on our board. Steve Singletary from down there in Early County. Russ Goodman from down there near Homerville. And Mr. Glenn Whitley from in Bethlehem, Georgia. Ooh, that's fancy. I didn't know it would do that. We are when you're talking about rural development, we get our roots in rural rehabilitation. Back in the 30s, in the Depression times, everybody was leaving the farm. They were going to the town. My family, all my relatives left Morgan County and went down to Miami. My dad said Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida. They went nice business. They all left the farm. So the federal government came up with the Rural Rehabilitation Program to try to get people back on farms. And that's where our initial money came from. We're a public corporation and an instrument of the state of Georgia. And we originated in 1953 with the creation of the Livestock Development Authority, which took in the funds from the Georgia Rural Rehabilitation Funds, which were federal money, started back in the 30s. Original funding of $1 million came from that Georgia Rural Rehabilitation Corporation. And since that time, our own portfolio, has grown to $87 million. And I'd like to stress again that we are self-funded. We're no cost to the state. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of that. We exist to provide and ensure that an alternative source of sound credit is available to the farmers and agribusinesses in the state of Georgia at a reasonable cost. It goes back to our rural rehabilitation roots when people could not get credit to farm. Rural communities are strengthened when the sound farms and agribusinesses contribute to their economies. That was the whole basis for the model to start with. And we've got many counties in the state of Georgia that would, they're basically agrarian counties, but they want more of it, and they want that further processing and value-added thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier. And it's a very good model, I believe. This comes back around to the rural rehabilitation concept that started back in the 30s. Now, how we operate. Our funding for the GDA, the money we lend out, comes primarily through us selling loans. We might partner up with a bank on a $1 million loan. We'll originate the thing, close it on our paper, and then sell it back to the bank. If we get that $1 million, we'll hand it back out to somebody else. We also borrow capital. We have, from time to time, had lines of credit. We're not having one right now. And then we're not for profit, but we try to make a profit. And what we do with that profit We don't give it to directors or boards. We loan that money back out to Georgia Farm. So that goes back in the book. Our loan products, we make loans to commercial farmers and agribusinesses. GDA participates with other local lenders, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, with our Insured Guaranteed Loan Program. And we've got our traditional loan program, which is our first one, and our Start Loan Program. This traditional loan program, we require a first lien on farm land. And then the maximum loan to value that we make is 75% of the appraised value of the purchase price, whichever's the lowest. And our loan terms are 5 to 30 years, which some lenders won't go out as far as we do. The repayment schedule is based on the income cash flow of the operation. In other words, we're not going to put a rural operation on a monthly pay when the income doesn't come in on a monthly basis. Likewise with a crop operation. Our interest rate, we offer adjustable rates and fixed rates. And right now, naturally the going thing is a fixed rate. Everybody wants to take advantage of these low rates. Like Stephen said, I've been around for a while, I've seen 18% rates. And right now, 5% rate is a bargain compared to that. And we've got a $1.2 million loan limit under ordinary circumstances. We also developed this START program back in, we got the ball really rolling in 2015, and it's for beginning farmers. And eligible borrowers must have 5 years or less farming at their own risk. They can be a farm worker, or somebody working for a farmer, managing something, but they don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. They could be going 6 or 7 years, but it's at their own risk for 5 years. And this is primarily for purchase of a commercial farm or land. It can also include facilities or machinery and equipment. And on this one, we have a $400,000 loan limit. We have an 85% loan to value maximum. Georgia Development Authority is going to have a first lien on the farm. We're going to loan 85% of the loan value. But here's one of the kickers on that. GDA allows for 100% total financing. Now, some lenders will not work with a customer and allow 100% total financing. They want them to put like 15% of their own capital into the transaction or something like this. This has worked out very well for succession of the farm from one generation to the next, because most of these older farmers, their retirement plan is the farm. To get some money out of that farm, they've got to sell it. If they can't sell it to someone to keep the farm, it goes out of the farm. If they keep it in the family, they're getting their retirement money set up, and they're getting the family operation going like they wanted it to do in originally. So we've got some situations where, say Granddad is going to sell the farm. We'll loan 85% of it. Granddad takes a note of the back on the rest of it. And we've got the guy, the young generation, in farming. He's staying on the farm. He's not moving off someplace else and trying to get a job elsewhere. And this is contingent upon availability of farms. Advantages of doing business with GDA is our closing costs are relatively low compared to other lenders. We've got a relatively low application fee of $100. We have no state intangible tax on the amount you borrow. We have a 0.5% loan origination fee we charge when the loan closes, which is a very reasonable fee. And the borrower chooses the attorney that they would like to close the loan. I'd like to talk a minute about some of the things we're real proud of, and that's some of our other activities outside of lending, because we feel like education is very important. So we have the David Skinner GDA Scholarship, and right now we're in a position where we're issuing 8 of these $1,500 scholarships a year to high school graduates who commit to an agricultural path in college.
We also make contributions to FFA, 4-H, Georgia Young Farmers, Eagle White and White Club, because those youth, and I know there's a lot of Georgia Young Farmers out here, don't look real young, but they're youthful in spirit. And matter of fact, they're one of my favorite bunches here, because I might identify with them more, but matter of fact, we sponsor, along with Atlantic and Southern, the farm competition for Farm Family every year. And we tour throughout the state visiting 4 farms. And that's just great. We really love that. But we do contributions in excess of $30,000 a year to organizations. And in conclusion, which you're probably ready for me to do, GDA provides long-term credit to farmers and agribusinesses through our direct funding. In other words, we can go directly to the customer and lend, or we can participate with their bank. And this works out good with a lot of local banks. Let me get on to that, because banks are not in a position to make long-term loans. They're good for operating loans, equipment loans, in the intermediate term type credit. But when it comes to long-term stuff, we're one of their best partners to go in and make that long-term loan. They can retain the business relationship with the customer. We're not going to steal that customer. We're not going to steal their operating business. We're going to work in conjunction with the bank. The ultimate goal is to provide an alternative source of low-cost funds to farmers while maintaining a sound portfolio to protect the authority. I thought there was no need at all for this when I was a Farm Credit employee. And I'm not going to run down Farm Credit, because Farm Credit is a very fine organization, and I'm proud to work for them for years. But there are situations where someone needs an alternative source of credit, and they can't deal with SBA, they can't deal with FSA, they can't deal with Farm Credit. We try to help them out if we can, try to be that alternative. And GDA provides support to the next generation of agriculturalists, young farmers, people working in the allied industries through our START program and our scholarships and the support of agri-youth program. And you can visit our website, gdaonline.com, or we've got offices in Monroe, Clifton, and Cordele, and you can call us at our toll-free number. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I was going to see. We have questions from the members of the council.
What kind of agribusiness finance?
Any type of agribusiness that they can prove that they do business with farmers, over 50% of their business. Actually, a tractor dealership would be no problem. We finance tractor dealerships. Let's say you had, say down there in Omega, you had a welding shop. He's out there doing a lot of on-farm welding work. If he can prove to us that over 50% of his gross income comes in from doing business with farmers, he's on our list. We can do business with him. If it's a feedlot, if it's a tobacco buying point, if it's talking about value added, that's something really for us to be thinking hard about. And Jack was talking about California running off people. Why are they running off? Why they're leaving California, Jack, is because there are regulations over there. From the highway on up, I mean, it's hard to do transportation in California. It's hard to do this. So if we make it friendly, and we've got some county development authorities who are going gung-ho and making it friendly, that's a world of difference, right? And we've seen a lot of oil companies integrated. Downloading that line now, aren't they?
All right, Jack, if you would come back, Tim, if you don't mind, come back up. Who else? Crystal?
Now, y'all will just come back up, and we'll just see if we've got any closing questions, thoughts, or comments from the members of the council, for all of y'all together or individually or whatever. Members of the council. Robert.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a statement, Jack, to members of this committee. This done it in the past before in a smaller way, and a lot of other states have been involved. But that program has really grown, and it is really putting money in farmers' pockets with the Georgia grown. Either consumers in the state or out of state, they want to know where their food's grown. They want to know food safety. They want to know all these things. And I just want to tell you, a lot of time government programs, you think departments get involved, but that one has been a huge success. And I just really thank the commissioner and Jack and those that have gotten behind it. It's not just ag farmers, it's the retail end as well. And it's a great, great partnership. And those type of things that the department at look for opportunities is a real home run and a real success story. So just want the members of this committee to realize that that one program, and there's many other things Department of Ag is helping with, as Jack told you too. So.
Jack, if I could ask you a couple of questions, if I may. A lot of schools today, I noticed the STEAM schools especially, the STEM schools are going to hydroponics, and of course, the problem we have in the state, they can't use the foods they grow in the lunchrooms because of the restrictions, but they're selling it to the public. And a lot of us with the herbs and everything, comment on, are you seeing that growing? Or are we trying to encourage in that, or how you feel?
It's basically up to the county system. School nutrition, we've got an ex-school nutritionist who works with us who can better be equipped to answer all of the questions. But for example, we talk about GAP certified, we talk about Primus certified, and it's basically up to that county school nutrition director what they can buy, who they can buy it from. And it's more that school's systems ordinance than it is a federal and or state.
That's good. Would you manage the term millennium, organic? It is unreal over here, comment on organic. Growing.
I'm either for it or I'm against it.
They're unreal.
I think we had a young lady who came in for an intern for a day program from the University of Georgia, College of Agriculture, who was approaching graduation. She came as an intern for a day program. And she came to ask me questions, and I didn't let her ask her questions. And I said, what is your opinion of organic? She says, the only thing I eat. I said, okay. What is your opinion of GMO? It's evil. Okay. Where do you get all your news? I said, when was the last time you read a newspaper? I don't think I ever have. She was honest. When was the last time you watched a TV network news show? Well, I'm sure I have sometime because I go home and see my parents. Well, where do you get your news? She holds up her cell phone. It's all right here. I said, do you believe everything you read on the internet is true? Well, not all of it. Well, I'm sorry. I think people misunderstand organic certification, what it is, false beliefs of safer. I have some problems. I think people should make decisions based on sound knowledge and judgment, and I'm afraid so.
Free-range chickens.
Sorry?
Like free-range chickens.
Like free-range chickens. I believe in, yeah. Those grandchildren, I believe in raising free-range grandchildren. Put them outside. Nothing wrong with them, but if you want to take all the chicken houses and do away with them, we don't have enough land in Georgia to support all of our chicken that we consume. It's free range. There's not enough dirt. I think Terry will tell you on his tour of China, they bragged on the fact they finally got enough funds to have a chicken house where chickens could live comfortably in controlled environments and not have to be out there fending for themselves against the Taiwanese.
They were doing advertisements when we were in China 5 years ago. Some of the first poultry houses, they were United States-owned integrators, but they were advertising on TV inside a chicken house, showing how comfortable it was for the chickens, and people were buying it left and right as hard as they could. So Jack and I actually happen to know a fellow that sells organic firewood in our neck of the woods. Y'all, we joke about it, but it goes back to the point Jack just made about we're not sure that, or people are not sure what they know about organic. They think, they know what they think they know, but they don't necessarily know what they know. And in honesty, the guy had a sign painted out, 4x8 sheet of plywood, spray painted on there, organic firewood, and he could not keep up. Serious as a heart attack.
It's branding.
Branding.
How much do you think that we could, because in rural Georgia, whether correctly or not, we get sort of what's left over as far as what comes out of the Department of Economic Development, because a lot of people decide where they want to be and how close to Hartsfield, or, I mean, it's just a fact of life. But I feel like, and I don't know if this is just anecdotal or whether there is some merit to it, but I feel like that there is a lot of potential homegrown business, whether we're talking about, I read an article not too long ago about a dairy that decided, hey, you know, we don't just have to sell milk. You know, there's this stuff, yogurt, that people eat. And they actually like tripled their employment and their capital investment because they decided to get into the yogurt business. Or whether we're talking about the feedlots, or whether we're talking about the cotton gins, or whether we're talking about any of these value added that recognizes that rural Georgia is basically in agriculture, and that's what we ought to focus on, which is the stuff we're good at, but keep the money at home and grow the jobs at home. How much opportunity do you think, if we put something and did an emphasis where the incubator folks, the business development center, we put capital, I mean, there was a bill that Jason Shaw introduced this year that was the Rural Jobs Creation Act, which was a variation of the New Markets capital program, but which concentrates that capital in rural Georgia. How much opportunity do you think that if we give the kind of structure to help people realize what they may have? I mean, we had in my community, we had an ethanol plant. Unfortunately, the business model was based on $5 corn, which we had never seen in our lifetime, and it went to 11. And so they went into bankruptcy, but they were bought out of bankruptcy, and now they're vibrant now that they've shed some of that debt, and they're creating jobs, and they're market for corn. And so, you know, it's not exactly as envisioned, but it is creating jobs now. I mean, how much possibility is that for rural Georgia?
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, I used to be deputy commissioner at the department, and there's only so many staff, there's only so many hours in a day with a state this big. What we tell the communities a lot of times is you have to take this into your own hands. And the best thing that you can do is start your own businesses and help those that are there, grow those first, and then maybe you'll be strong enough to recruit something in. What we've been spending a lot of time this summer is trying to explain to local communities the importance of maker spaces and teaching kids to make stuff again or to grow stuff again and getting that mentality, because we've lost a generation of people that want to make stuff and build stuff. I'll give you a great example. In Warner Robins, where Tim used to run the Development Authority, they'd taken their college and career academy, and they took a space probably twice the size of this room, the private sector, invested in equipment. They created a maker space so young kids in school can go in there and learn how to make stuff, and then at night they open it up to the community so entrepreneurs can come in and get access. And that's not a business incubator. We like incubators a lot. But I've been telling some communities, quit trying to build an incubator for some high-tech, something that's never going to come. Use what you got, and maker spaces help communities do that. And that would be one of our recommendations, is how we build out these maker spaces. Macon's done it, and they've got some great successes from it already. And so I think there's a tremendous opportunity, but we have to go into the schools and teach them how to do it, teach them that it's cool to grow stuff again. Teach, you know, when I grew up, we all did, in Mystic, Georgia, we all went through 4-H. I can't find a 4-H program in my county now for my kid to go to. I mean, it's impossible. So what are we doing to get those programs back again into the school systems, but also to give access to the entrepreneurs so that they can get that access to learn how to make stuff or grow or process stuff even.
I think, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's a good question. In life, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. Sometimes people can, sometimes people will. You have to take responsibility for your own health. You have to take responsibility for your own education. You have to take responsibility for your own job, your own career, some of those kinds of things. And I think to the extent that rural communities like ours, like across Georgia, can encourage people to do what they can with what they have, where they are, we're going to be better served. There's a variety of items on our menu of assistance from the state of Georgia that can help with that. I mentioned in my conversation with Blue Lion the Archway Partnership. There are entities like that, agencies like that, SBDC. Georgia Tech's got some programs. There's some great programs out there through the local colleges, through the local school system. Chambers of Commerce can play and do play a huge role in helping people help themselves. Help looks different to different people, depending upon what time they're in. And successful communities are going to be the kind of communities that listen well, that know what that range of resources could be, and then try to encourage those answers to the folk in their community.
Appreciate what you're saying, but many school systems, especially in County, doing this project-based learning, like you're saying, giving them these ideas, that's what you're talking, and they've involved the chamber, involved businesses to come in. They just turn the students loose because they have that math and reading and everything. Is that what
We are introducing that. The business community has to go within those schools.
That's right.
And spend that time with them, mentor to those young people. Because they don't know. I mean, like you were saying, I heard from Noah the other day. These were the best kids from Lawrence County, 30 kids. How many people moved back home? One little girl raised her hand. I looked at her and I said, why? She said, because my boyfriend. That's how I made the endorsement that I was looking for moving back home. But the kids, when we got down to it, they didn't know that the bank president was going to retire. The hospital administrator was going to retire. The anesthesiologist was going to retire. And there were opportunities. Nobody come into the schools to explain to them, these are things that you can do and they can have a great quality of life. So it's getting into the schools. It's us getting into schools, not just the teachers getting into the schools.
So the chambers getting with the schools.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We talk about infrastructure and economic engines. I know a port is. It's mentioned about Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. We're spending billions on roads around Atlanta, congestion. Atlanta's out of water. What do you think would be the economic engine and benefit of locating a second airport south of Atlanta in near rural Georgia, in middle Georgia? Would it be, since the Atlanta airport's owned by the city and the state invested some of its resources in a second airport?
All right. First of all, we got regional airports in Georgia, Columbus Airport, Savannah, Macon, Albany actually there's number one airport in Georgia, UPS to use. So we do have very strong regional airport. Problem is, a lot of them get subsidized. The companies fly in there because it's not, resources aren't there to fly out. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense to get a plane all the way fly to Atlanta, fly to Savannah, fly somewhere else. So I think it's probably a great question for the aviation guys. I know they've done their research in the past. I just don't know what the viability structure is. But obviously, you've got this economic engine, where it is economic engine in Columbus and Albany, Valdosta, Brunswick, could be more. Absolutely.
Chairman Powell mentioned premium peanut in Douglas, and he also mentioned about some of the value-added things that some of these agribusinesses could possibly invest in. And premium peanut, less than 1 year after they opened, broke ground on a $14 million peanut oil. And Georgia's very helpful from the top down, but they really had to jump through a lot of hoops and beg and plead and just scrimp and scrape to try to make that work for that $14 million investment. They're also now pursuing the possibility of a blanching facility on that same property. And so being ready to help those kind of value-added products, we import more than 80% of the crude peanut oil that comes in, or 70% of the oil that comes in, we import into this country. And we grow enough peanuts here to do it. The other thing I wanted to touch on, I think that Chris mentioned, was 4-H. And Miss Laura Perry Johnson's in here with us, the cooperative extension. I have cried and called. I've begged her, and she's been so generous to help me look at this. There's not a better program in the nation than 4-H. And you just mentioned you can't find a 4-H program. Than to getting these kids the leadership training, the introduction into agriculture and agriculture education. And if you want to bring kids back to rural Georgia, you got to introduce them to agriculture and agribusiness and rural investment. That's where it's at. $75 billion in economic impact. They're not growing cotton in downtown Atlanta, making Savannah, Augusta, Columbus. They're just not. If you see one, you let me know. But you start putting the money to 4-H and agriculture education, you'll get these kids interested. But we got to be able to hire the extension agents. We got to be able to hire the program assistants and the directors. And so that's a way that I think we need to be able to do it.
This morning you talked about the read by the time you're in the 3rd grade and what a large number or not. Maybe Brooks can answer it. I mean, we instituted a program 4 or 5 years ago, Brooks, where they don't read by the 3rd grade. We have remedial. Is it not working?
What's so tragic, and Terry and I have talked about this a lot, what's so tragic is we've implemented, just since I've been here and been in education, several programs, reading recovery, all these programs, but we stop them. They stop them. Lead reading teachers. And that's one thing I think that I like about what the governor's doing now, the emphasis on reading with the turnaround officer. We are concentrating on not only reading, but math, which you mentioned this morning, and the reading that we're going to. And people don't realize that you don't stop reading when you teach science. You teach science through reading if they need it. And that's what we're going to be working on. But we've got to stop cutting them out. And this is another plug for what I appreciate Chairman Powell, what they helped me, that we've cut the funds, and that's why we asked for that special funding just for these schools to help that we've had, that we passed this year. But you're right, we've cut them out. We cut out lead reading teachers. We cut out all those programs. Reading recovery. Well, let's put it this way: the schools cut it when we cut the money.
Well, and there are times that the money's still there and systems walk away from the programs. And so there's no need to continue to put the money into the program.
So there was no requirement that it was in.
And when we do these type programs, we fund them as long as there's demand for them. But once there becomes no demand, at that point there's no sense in continuing to put the money there when it can be allocated to a different educational resource.
Well, since it's a problem, if we went back and did that, I know we don't like to tell the schools what they have to do, but do we have the right to say, you must do this?
We know, it's no secret, we know how to teach reading. We can teach reading. But you cannot put 25 to 30 children in the 1st and 2nd grade with 12 or 15 reading groups. They need to have the lower class sizes. But something we've done in the last 8 years, we've given complete flexibility with the charter systems through the Senate, with the those programs we've given. All but 2 systems have complete flexibility. They've chosen, and most of their money comes from teachers, as Terry can tell you, teacher allotment. So they pack those classes and use that money for other things. But we know how to do it, and what we're going to be emphasizing with this new program we have, they're going to have to be reading, or we're going to take their contracts and their flexibility away. But you're right, yeah.
Okay.
It's bigger than just saying, I like to talk with you about it.
Seems like the person, wherever the money's coming from, we ought to have a little more say about it, especially if we're not educating kids to read, which means they're going to end up in prison or on dole. So, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Remember that this year, under the governor and the First Lady's leadership, we have established the new elementary reading center at Georgia College and State University.
Georgia,
that's kicking off here in a day or two.
They've already announced, kicking off.
And so, I mean, one thing about the First Lady herself is Sandra Deal has been a huge proponent of reading literacy, and she's done everything and thought of everything that she can think of, and we've done it too. It's just a matter of communities engaging, school boards engaging, and want to do something about it.
Mr. Chairman, you went with us 2 years ago when we held those hearings and asked why we weren't teaching reading, and we found, and when we realized 155 failing schools and 90% of them are elementary, that's unacceptable, but it's the leadership. What we found, most of the teachers told us it's the leadership not understanding the reading process, a reading grid. So that's why, that's a local.
Okay, other questions? Gentlemen, thank y'all for being with us.
I got
Thank
something for you to look at. It's called Footsteps to Brilliance.
Ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much brings us to the conclusion of this meeting. As always, Chairman Powell and myself are available for your emails, phone calls, if something occurs to you after this that you want to think about or something that you'd like to see at another meeting coming up. Would like to remind everyone that July 19th and 20th, we will be in the Thomasville Bainbridge area for 2 days of meetings down there. That focus will be primarily health care and behavioral health care. So that's a lot of what we're going to hear about down there. Anything else for the good of the order?
I want my sign-ups.
That right there. Chairman Powell needs that before it disappears out of this room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I want to thank our staff. There's a bunch of our staff that have been here with us both days and working in between to get everything set up. Tim Bearden, Brent, Calder, Christine, Hannah, Blake, and I'll probably miss somebody and going to...
All the presentations will be archived.
And all of the presentations will be archived on our website. Go to the House webpage or the Legislative webpage, General Assembly webpage, and you can get to the committee website from there. So with no further ado, thank you all for being here. Safe travels back home, and we look forward to seeing you soon.